It's 900 hours Central Africa time on this Thursday, the 4th of February 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News Channel 404. Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome to the first hour. I'm Elvis President. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. You have to stay with us as we broadcast live from our Auckland Park studios in Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. As you know, we're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on your YouTube channel. On our question of the day, we ask you, the question that we pose is going to be on your screen. If we look at the fourth industrial revolution, and that fourth industrial revolution is on our doorstep, would like to know from you, what do you make of the fourth industrial revolution, and how will it assist us in our way moving forward? It'll come up probably a little bit later on our screen, so you can have it and let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle as well as on the Facebook page. But right now, let's first take a look at your news headlines. All eyes on the two main litigants in the Nkandla Constitutional Court matter on whether they will continue with the case. President Jacob Zuma accuses the Western Cape Premier Helen Zille of abusing his trust after she released what he says was confidential information. And the countrywide public hearings on Eskom's application for an additional tariff hike moved to Midday, north of Johannesburg, today. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Nkandla what's happening on the sports front. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Elvis. It's midweek and quite a lot of action in the Absolute Premiership. In fact, that's pretty much where we are this morning, even though there was a little bit of cricket played yesterday. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports later today.
Well, that's got them cheering.
England and the weather rain on the Proteas parade as South Africa lose the first ODI by 39 runs on the Duckworth-Lewis method. And it was an unhappy reunion for Roger de Saan Pirates last night as his former club beat Ajax 2-1 at Orlando Stadium. And it was a night to forget for PSL goalkeepers as first Jakola, then Bar gifted goals to their opposition.
In the most unfortunate situation here, Bar in his first.
Right, there you go. A very unfortunate night for PSL goalkeepers last night. Seems like a comedy of errors in the PSL recently. But back to you, Elvis.
Thank you, Kendall. Now, you will be back a little bit later. Right now, your top story. Two of the main litigants in the Nkandla Constitutional Court matter are yet to pronounce on whether or not they want to continue with the case. The EFF and the Office of the Public Protector are still studying the legal implications of President Jacob Zuma's offer to pay back a portion of the 246 million rand spent on upgrading his Nkandla home. The DA has rejected the proposal and wants the matter to proceed to the Constitutional Court next week, Tuesday.
It has been a long, drawn-out battle. 2 years since the public protector recommended the president pay back a portion spent on non-security upgrades at his Nkandla home. Various institutions launched investigations. The Police Ministry, Public Works and the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee all cleared the president. But this did not deter the opposition parties, particularly the EFF, which went to the highest court to force the president to pay. The president proposes that the Auditor General be part of determining the amount to be paid, a suggestion that was not part of the Public Protector's recommendations.
As the Public Protector team, we are ready for the court case in the Constitutional Court on Tuesday next week. I must indicate, though, that the President's intervention requires me and my team and our lawyers to sit down and review our situation. So we can't just blindly continue with the constitutional process.
The ruling party says the president's decision is a step in the right direction.
It's not an admission of guilt, but I think in the interest of taking forward the country, but making sure that we focus on many other issues, the president is prepared to pay a certain amount, which will be determined by the authorities, which among others he has suggested in his letter to his offer to Concord.
But for the official opposition, the Nkandla battle is far from over.
He, first of all, accused the public protector of being keen only to an ombudsman, which was the first assault on, in fact, the remedial action that and the powers given to the public protector. He then proceeded to replace the process with parallel processes. And now suddenly for him to stand before the people of this country to say he was intent on paying.
Analysts believe the president's proposal will lessen tensions ahead of the State of the Nation address next week. Aldrin St-Pierre, SABC News, Johannesburg.
President Jacob Zuma has accused the Western Cape Premier Helen Zille of abusing his trust after she released what he says was confidential information. Zille said in a statement that the president had told provincial premiers at a meeting in Pretoria that he would make deep cuts to budget allocations. He said the country's economic plight had forced his hand. The presidency says the confidential contents of the meeting ahead of Zuma's State of the Nation address and Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan's budget speech were released without consent or authorization. The FW de Klerk Foundation has dismissed the laying of charges by the newly formed Anti-Racism Forum against the former state president. The foundation described the charges as an attempt by an unknown organization to generate divisive and sensational publicity. A former EFF leader, Andile Nkandla, and members of the forum laid 22 charges at the Hillbrow police station in Johannesburg against de Klerk and apartheid-era law and order minister Adrian Vlok. The forum wants them to answer for the Boipatong and Bisho massacres, as well as train and township killings before 1994. In 1998, Vlok told the TRC that de Klerk knew of illegal security force operations, and refuting the allegations, de Klerk refused to apply for amnesty. The countrywide public hearings on Eskom's application for an additional tariff hike moved to Midrand, north of Johannesburg today. Eskom is seeking approval from the National Energy Regulator of South Africa to acquire an extra 22 billion rand. The power utility says already approved tariff hikes fail to factor in high diesel cost used to keep the lights on. Meanwhile, Eskom has served notice of intention to suspend electricity supply to 8 Free State municipalities by the end of this month due to continued non-payment. Late last year, Eskom issued the first threat to cut off municipality power supply after it was revealed that they were owed almost 2 billion rand. Meanwhile, activist group The Right to Know campaign is planning a protest at today's hearings. The group says that the public should not be made to pay for Eskom's bad management. About 40 heads of state and 2,500 leaders from business and society were at Davos in Switzerland to talk about some of the most important global challenges facing us today. One of the most topical was the fourth industrial revolution. Now, as we enter the fourth industrial revolution, a digital revolution expected to transform society with massive technological changes begin to alter the nature of work. But this is just the beginning. But there are concerns, and they are abound, that the digital revolution is already here and could wipe out middle income and middle class jobs of an unprecedented scale. The fear of the technological advances of the fourth industrial revolution is that more than 5 million jobs could be lost in 15 major economies by 2020. But there are those who believe that such fears about technology destroying jobs are not new, and that the world will have more jobs being created than being destroyed. They believe that technological advances of the fourth industrial revolution will improve aspects of the current systems of our lives. Now, to shed some light on the fourth industrial revolution, we were joined early in studio by Mr. Lone Sharp, who is the director of economists at Profit Analytics, and I asked him about the third industrial revolution.
It depends on what approach our government will take to these advances. If we get a knee-jerk reaction that this is going to be bad for employment, that we cannot lead this industrial revolution unchecked, that we need extensive government regulation to influence the path of this development, then I think we're going to have problems. We're already seeing it. The government is now involved in desktop boxes for the new digital television. Government is now becoming involved in the pricing of mobile phone services. Government's becoming increasingly involved in South Africa in just about everything. And certainly in the United States and to some extent in Europe, governments are reluctant to get involved or interfere with this emerging revolution because no one really knows how things are going to develop. I mean, until a few months ago, it looked like self-driving cars would be the way of the future. But it looks, in fact, today that is going to be completely sidestepped by the availability of services, for example, by Uber.
Yes.
Uber is probably going to be driving people to work and making the best use of a car that would otherwise sit in the garage for 16 hours a day. So it's such a fluid situation. I think if government gets too involved and tries to pick winners and losers, they're going to lose a great opportunity.
That was Lone Sharp, the Director of Economics at Profit Analytics, telling us about the fourth revolution. So what do you make of that? We're asking you a question today, and let's see if that question is up for you to comment on the Facebook page as well as on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. What do you make of the fourth revolution or the digital revolution that we find ourselves in, that we're progressing into? I would like to get your thoughts on it. Let's see if that question is up. It seems like we're having, and there we go. It seems like it's going to be on your screen in a short while, and you can then comment on the question that we pose to you. Meanwhile, the public protector, Thuli Madonsela, has yet to decide on how to proceed with next week's Constitutional Court case on Nkandla security upgrades. Now, this follows President Jacob Zuma's statement that he was willing to pay back a portion of the money for security upgrades for his private home. Let's take a look at some of your tweets of the day. Here we find Machache, and he says, I love how the EFF and the DA are taking credit for the hashtag pay back the money. It's cute. Not voting for either party, though, says Makhacheni. Mwande Duze says, I'd love to hear Nati Nhleko now. Hashtag pay back the money. This one from Lindiwe says, looking forward to the EFF presser on pay back the money. That presses, of course, today. We'll find out what they have to say a little bit later. Yonela says, security upgrade or not, the president must pay back the whole 246 million rand. There was a price escalation of which he might have benefited from. Hashtag pay back the money. Those are some of your comments and your tweets. You can send us your tweets and a picture on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, also on the Facebook page. If you like us there, you can send it through. Picture of the day today, we're looking at this one, World Cancer, and it seems like there's the picture there. It tells you a lot more what's on the picture of the day. It's World Cancer Day. Now let's take a look at the front pages from around the globe, and we're starting off in Europe. The Times reports that the chance of dying from cancer has fallen significantly in Britain despite an increase in cases. And that's according to a landmark study that hails enormous progress in detection and treatment. And the New York International Times, bad debt have been a drag on economic activity ever since the financial crisis of 2008, but the threat appears to be rising, and China is the biggest source of worry. Finally, in Israel, the Jerusalem Post reports that a 19-year-old border policewoman was killed and another female officer critically wounded in an attack yesterday at Damascus Gate by 3 Arab terrorists wielding machine guns, pipe bombs and knives. Now let's take a look at what's happening in the courts today. We start off in Cape Town. The man dubbed Helen Zilla's spook, Paul Skeppers, is expected back in the Belleville District Court. Crime intelligence official faces 19 charges of fraud and corruption relating to his company's work for the provincial government in the Western Cape. Still in Cape Town, internationally renowned artist Zweletu Mthethwa, who has been accused of allegedly kicking to death a sex worker in Woodstock in 2013, is due to appear in the Western Cape High Court. And then big news in the international courts. Martin Shkreli, the former drug executive who raised the price of life-saving medicine by 5,000%, is said to appear as a witness at the congressional hearings today. Shkreli sparked outrage last year after his company, Turing Pharmaceuticals, raised the price of the 62-year-old Daraprim to $750. That's over 12,000 rand just for one pill. And that's from $13.50, which equals about 200 rand. Now, that's a heck of a price. Then in Egypt, as the Egyptian appeals court has overturned death sentences of 149 people charged with lynching 11 police officers in August 2013. Well, that is your news for now. After this, Arthur Goldstuck is here to talk digital and the fourth industrial revolution. You have to stay tuned here on your favorite channel of choice, Newsroom, on SABC News, channel 404.
We kick off this week's show by seeing how Kenyans are paying tribute to the victims, as well as not only how they've coped, but how they returned stronger after the attacks.
Last year, images of the 4-day Westgate Mall attack saturated front pages.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, artists have assembled to celebrate the peace this war-torn country has not had in a long time.
No conflict that can't be solved without a conversation.
The Journal, every Saturday at 1:30 on SABC News.
Now remember that we're asking you that very important question today. I think we have it now on screen, and you can also take part in that question and letting us know about your thoughts. Are we ready? Are you ready for the digital revolution? That's the fourth industrial revolution. You can send us your comments to @SABC Newsroom, as well as on the Facebook page. Let us know what's on your mind, and we continue that discussion. That's our theme for today, the fourth industrial revolution. Now, technology is a great influence in our society today. Now, you can see that. And companies continue to adapt their products and services to the ever-changing digital world. We are now said to be entering into this fourth industrial revolution, with the possibilities of billions of people connected by mobile devices with full access to knowledge. And these possibilities will be multiplied by emerging technology breakthroughs in fields such as artificial intelligence, or AI, and robotics, autonomous vehicles, 3D printing, nanotechnology, biotechnology, and so much more. But to enlighten us on the issues, we have in studio Arthur Goldstuck, the Managing Director of Worldwide Works and Editor-in-Chief at Gadget. A very good morning to you, Arthur, and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis. Thank you.
Now, this is probably a topic that's very close to your heart.
It's in fact a topic that I've been researching and talking about for more than 20 years. So when they talk about the coming fourth industrial revolution, I think, what are they talking about? We've been in that revolution for a few decades. People just haven't realized it or woken up to it yet.
So tell me something. We're going to put a graphic on so we can talk through those and in terms of the industrial revolution and where we are right now. I think if we can't get it on screen, we can have it there. But here we are. So navigating the next industrial revolution. There, the first one, 1784. We looked at steam, water, mechanical production, equipment. 1870, the division of labor, electricity, mass production. 1969, electronics, IT, auto. And that is where that discussion started, isn't it? And you said you've been talking for 2 decades. Tell us more about this cyber physical systems and the fourth industrial revolution.
Well, firstly, we're still living with that third electronics revolution, because that gave rise to the cell phone. Mm-hmm. But the cell phone then gave rise to the smartphone, and that smartphone is helping to usher in this fourth revolution. What they're really talking about when the World Bank, for example, and the World Economic Forum were talking about the fourth industrial revolution, they were talking about automation beyond what we've known as the traditional industrial revolution, where it was automatic machines. Now we're talking about automatic decision-making. So that's really what they refer to as artificial intelligence, which is computers making decisions for us, not controlling us, but certainly making decisions for us, and we're going to allow them to control us. So to the extent that it seems to work for businesses, for economies, we will find ourselves being controlled by automatic decision-making. And it's not always going to work out well. And one of the big challenges facing us is the shift in the job description of the entire human race. They forecast, for example, that something like 5 million jobs will be lost by 2020. My argument is that those jobs have been disappearing for quite a while now. And it's not suddenly that 5 million people will be out of work. It's that those people have been losing their jobs for quite some time. And we have to change the way we prepare people for this future.
So it's a long time coming, and we are aware of these things. But so, and what you're also saying is that the fourth revolution that we're talking about is really just an upgrade from the third revolution.
That's exactly what it is. It's faster, it's more connected, and it's more automated, but also it's more intelligent, and a lot of it is happening without us knowing. It's under the hood, as they say, of the devices that we carry with us.
What are some of the demands of these digitalization in relation to sharing of data, especially in countries that are still fighting poverty like ourselves and the rest of the world?
Well, in the United States, for example, they talk about big data and big data allowing businesses to make decisions faster and faster. And you see organizations like Google and Facebook becoming some of the biggest companies in the world. Google this week became the world's largest company by market capitalization, thanks entirely to its ability to manipulate big data. But we don't yet have that luxury here where we can play with the data. We have too many problems on the ground that we have to solve. But this fourth industrial revolution can help us solve it if we embrace some of the principles of it, like, for example, creative problem solving. That's regarded as one of the key forms of dealing with the future and one of the key requirements of education for the 21st century. But what we see at the moment in our own education system is that we're still preparing people for that first and second industrial revolution, not even the third industrial revolution. So we're not ready for what's coming, and we're not preparing our children or our educational system. So the entire educational system has to shift.
So if we look at that and talking about that, because we need to prepare ourselves for this fourth revolution, what sort of skills are we looking at that is going to, because we know that there's going to be job losses. You indicated already 5 million. That's worldwide. So what sort of skills are we looking at for the fourth revolution?
There's two key skills that keep coming up, and especially when we talk about reinventing the education system. And that is not a specific job-oriented skill, but an ability to work in certain ways. And there are two key ones. The one is to be able to collaborate and work in teams, absolutely critical, because teamwork is going to be a key to this future. And the other is the ability to solve problems and to take a creative approach to problem solving. And that's where our education system is falling short, because it's geared towards rote learning, repeating in parrot fashion what you've learned, as opposed to tackling what you've learned and using that information to address critical issues. So let's say, take for example the problem of low economic housing or slums. And every developing country in the world is wrestling with that particular issue. But we don't see our educational system geared towards how do we solve that problem. And that is one very simple example of a problem that's right on our doorsteps that we need to solve, that our educational system is not geared towards.
Let's take a look at job losses. Who will be, or what sector will be the casualties when this technological advancement and revolution takes over?
A lot more of what we saw in the first two industrial revolutions, which is that anything that can be automated on a production line is going to be done by robots. And the robots are becoming more and more sophisticated. We often think about the robots of the future as being these humanoid creatures walking among us, perhaps serving us, perhaps trying to take over the world. But in reality, the robot economy is one of automated production lines and industrial activity. And I've seen some of the robots being built in Japan at the moment. They're incredible in terms of the fine-tuned work they can do, the kind of work that previously only human hands could do, is now potentially going to be done by robots because they have got such advanced abilities. So if you in anything involving a production line, then you should look to retraining. That's just to start with. There are many other areas where computers can take over your work or can serve customers. For example, bank tellers. Bank tellers are very inefficient. And let's say an ATM on steroids is going to do a far better job than a bank teller.
So optimization and mechanization, especially for the mines, that is what's going to happen. Something that I picked up in the research is that the phrase called the Internet of Things. Explain that concept for us.
The Internet of Things is really all the devices that are connected to the Internet communicating with each other or information being pulled from all of them. So sensors, for example. A sensor is a device that picks up data in its environment. And you can get sensors looking at anything from the weather to traffic conditions and the like. But what the Internet of Things does is pulls all this information together and allows you to model traffic or weather far more efficiently and be able to plan more efficiently and make decisions. So we already have the Internet of Things on our smartphones if we're using mapping, for example. If we're using navigation on the phone, it's actually relying on all the devices in the cars that are being used for tracking and the like, or for fleet management. And that feeds back into this so-called Internet of Things, gets pulled into your maps and tells you what the traffic conditions are and where your best route is. So it's part of our environment already. We live with it. We're taking advantage and benefiting from it already. So you can imagine so much more that can be measured and have sensors put in the future. Our smartphones, for example, tracking our activity and feeding that back into this great big cloud of data, and that data being analyzed.
And of course, self-driving vehicles. That's what we'll see as well.
That's the next big thing.
Now, we're asking our viewers today, are they ready for the fourth industrial revolution? Your thoughts on that, especially here in South Africa. Are we ready?
Most people are, on the one hand, already part of it without realizing it, but on the other hand, are not ready for the big changes that are going to come. And let's say the sector that is the least ready is the business sector. So organizations that don't know what's going to hit them in the next 3 to 5 years, and certainly in the next decade. So big organizations that have to plan 5 to 10 years ahead have to start rethinking the way they plan and on what they base their decisions, because automation, big data, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and all of these factors will have a big impact. But further down the line, even the self-driving car, the autonomous vehicle, is going to change the way people commute, and that will change the way businesses have to think about how people arrive at work, when they arrive at work, and the like. So everything changes, everything shifts, and businesses have to start living in a world of shift rather than a world of trying to keep things stable.
Mr. Goldstock, as always, thank you so much for your insight. It was absolutely fantastic. That was Arthur Goldstock. Now he's talking about the fourth industrial revolution, how it's going to affect you. And of course, he's from Worldwide Works. He's the managing director there. But how will it affect you? Are you ready for that shift, as he mentioned? Are you ready for the fourth industrial revolution? Let me know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. You can also like us on the Facebook page and comment there. We'll read your comments, and I think it's going to be very interesting during the course of the program. Now, the World Economic Forum's annual meeting at Davos in Switzerland brought together all world leaders from business, government, international organizations, academia, and civil society to discuss the global economy. The big buzz at that WEF this year was about the fourth industrial revolution, described by the founder and the executive chairman of WEF, Klaus Schwab, as a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. The fourth industrial revolution has the potential to change the definition of human labor, from machines replacing manual labor workers in factories. To tell us more about this, we earlier have on Skype Mr. Terry Bell. He's a labor analyst to tell us more.
The fourth industrial revolution is really just a continuation of what we call the microchip revolution about 20, 30 years ago, with the development of robotics and now with artificial intelligence. What the WEF did not do was they dodged the issue, because the main problem here within our present system is that we are displacing workers on a permanent basis. Unlike previous revolutions, with the coming of steam, for example, then the coming of electricity, which gave us Fordism, which gave us the assembly line for automobiles, etc., there were new jobs opening up in the service industries. Now, all these jobs can be done by machine. And this leads to, well, basically making most of humanity redundant. Now, that is the prime issue, which is one dodged by people like the WEF, which happens to be a rich man's club, the 1,000 members who happen to be the CEOs of the wealthiest companies on the planet.
Now, do you believe that there are only challenges and downsides to this revolution, or are there perhaps opportunities, especially for South Africa?
I think that there are opportunities globally, not just South Africa. The point, however, is it cannot operate within the present system, because we now have a situation where we have a massive potential of slaves, if you will, who can do all the drudgery, all the hard work. In Japan, for example, there's now the first automated farm is coming into being. The only human input will be to plant seeds. The harvesting, everything else will be done by machine. Last year, Namura Bank, I think it was, one in Japan, actually now has a robot which provides the services people did before in 19 languages to advise people, can read your emotions. Oh, is that the correct answer? Is that what you want? What sort of product do you need, etc. So all jobs can be, all the drudgery needs to be taken out of life if these machines, these robots, whatever, serve humanity as a whole. They can't serve private profit, because if they do, then it's just going to make workers unemployed.
Mm-hmm. Now, some analysts have warned that the fourth industrial revolution could increase inequality in the world as the spread of the machine increases unemployment and disrupt labor markets. Your thoughts on that? And I think that is where you're going to with this.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear that. Disrupt, yes, it's going to disrupt everything, and it's going to increase the levels of inequality. We already well, these are people who are unskilled. So all we need to do, for example, and I've heard this argued here in South Africa, look, what we need are higher skills. The education system is what is at fault. This is actually partially true. But we have, for example, 59,000 roughly job vacancies at highly skilled levels, mainly in engineering, medicine, etc. But there are more than 7 million unemployed. So, even if we upskilled everyone, we just have more highly skilled unemployed people. So the point is, we have to actually look at the whole thing in a different way. We have to say, look, this system can't cope. Our technological advance has far outstripped our social and political system and ability. So we therefore have to start looking at new ways of doing things, new ways of start here in South Africa. Why not? There's no reason why we couldn't.
We can foresee more job losses in South Africa with the fourth industrial revolution, or do you perhaps think that it will spearhead new job creation for those in sectors that is needed?
Well, the point is, I can't see which sectors the new job creation could be created. In making machines, perhaps? Well, the point is, we already have a situation where robotics make other robots. Machines make machines. We're already into that position. We're in a situation where we have 3D printing. We can produce just about anything. We already have a situation where, for example, particularly in the open cast business, we have open cast mining, where we've had huge job losses because, not losses from the mines themselves, but fewer workers being employed because of machinery right across the board. It'll happen in retail, for example. It's already happening in Europe, rapidly in Japan, because Japan has an aging population and therefore are short of workers, and they don't have any sort of huge migration of anyone going to Japan. So the technology is going to increase, and the more it does, I cannot see that it's going to open up any other job opportunities other than for a very few, very highly paid probably, very highly skilled workers, but the overwhelming majority will simply have no work.
So what does the mining sector now do, Mr. Bell? Because it seems like technology is set to transform the industry. Should companies now, or mining companies now, focus on perhaps upskilling workers? Or how can South African miners take advantage of this, if there is such a thing?
Well, the point is they take advantage. They're already upskilling here that it was so much cheaper just to use labor, human labor, very cheap, low-paid labor, looked after, than to use machines. Now we're upskilling, much more upskilling of miners. So you will have a minority of miners, say, for example, where you had 10,000 workers, you might now have 1,000 or 500, whatever, of highly skilled people who will be operating machines, particularly at very deep levels. I mean, at 3 kilometers underground, it's extremely hot. It's very difficult for humans to work there, but machines can work there quite easily, controlled automatically, robotically, by skilled people on the surface. We already have drones killing people from, in the Middle East, and they're controlled from Washington.
Mm-hmm. So what does the future landscape, mining landscape look like here in South Africa, Mr. Bell?
I think, well, if, for example, the commodities, the international commodity market picks up and we need more product produced, and we will always have it produced, I think we'll have it produced by fewer people, fewer workers, operating much on a more highly skilled basis, operating machines. So I think our mining, because we have this incredibly good system, well, not good system, but a lot of resources, we're resource rich. Because of that, we will continue to mine. We'll continue to be a mining economy. Hopefully, of course, we will also beneficiate the minerals that we produce. Instead of selling iron ore, for example, to India and China, then importing flanges and other products, we should be making them ourselves, even if we're making them with fewer workers by machine.
Mr. Bell, thank you so much for your thoughts.
It's a pleasure.
Now, as you know, today is World Cancer Day. And now let's take a look at what you have to say on social media. Now, remember that you can send us your tweets at SABC Newsroom, and we'll read your comments as we continue. Let's take a look at some of those tweets, if there is any there. This one from Arun says, is blood cancer transmissible by blood transfusion? Hashtag ask about cancer, World Cancer Day. We can probably look at the Cancer Association for that answer there. Nahar says, do not let doubt eat up your mind. Clear your doubts by asking. Hashtag ask about cancer. Hashtag World Cancer Day, says Nahar. EG says, let's unite and fight cancer. Hashtag World Cancer Day. And this one from Keep Smiling says, be strong. And don't let cancer take over you. Reverse the fight with positivity. Hashtag we can, I can, it says. CDC in Namibia says, hashtag cancer, it affects everyone differently. And everyone has a role to play to reduce the impact of the disease. What can you do? That's a question. Hashtag World Cancer Day, CDC Namibia. What can you do? Well, you can obviously take a look at your status. Go to your doctor, find out, test yourself, and make sure that you are cancer-free. Especially for men, there's a stigma that men think that they are not cancer-prone, but you can get cancer. So test yourself today. Let's take a look at what is happening on our Facebook page today, on the Newsroom Facebook page. Today, President Jacob Zuma has accused the Western Cape Premier Helen Zille of abuse of trust after she released what he says was confidential information. Then we see WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. He will leave the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where he took refuge in June 2012 to avoid extradition to Sweden and accept arrest on Friday if a UN panel investigating his case rules against him, he said in a statement. And then finally, the Zimbabwe's Constitutional Court has confirmed that criminal defamation is no longer part of the law. Well, there you have it in Zimbabwe. Now, you can find all these stories and more on our Newsroom Facebook page, or you can visit SABC The website there, www.sabc.co.za. Let's now take a short break and we'll be right back after that.
News at 1 touches the nerve of business locally and abroad. Find out how a move in the economy affects you daily. We bring to you all stock markets information across the globe daily. We deliver the latest news and sport news of the day. Make a date with lunchtime news at 1 daily.
As African leaders gather for the AU Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, SABC News is on the ground bringing you all the latest coverage as it happens. For all the latest updates and issues arising on the summit, stay tuned to SABC News, Channel 404.
We make sure to bring you exciting entertainment news on trends. Ayanda, a vibrant South African movie told with love, passion and exceptional acting.
For Ayanda, at least, it says that we are heading in the right direction. South African films are growing and they are heading in the right direction to become international movies.
The Urban Art Festival artists brought back colour to old buildings of Johannesburg with their spray cans.
Festival to promote graffiti in Johannesburg and also to promote the Johannesburg inner city. But it brings a number of international artists out and then they paint with our local artists and they paint throughout the inner city.
We even give you tips on making healthy and fruity cocktails.
Low carbs, fun cocktails for the summer.
Join Refulo Muilwa every Friday for that 1 hour weekly dose of art and entertainment news at 9 p.m. on Trends.
Get all the latest news from the SABC's online news services on our website. Breaking news and in-depth coverage of everything from business, sports to politics and lifestyle. Catch the top news clips and watch live streaming of major news events on the SABC News YouTube channel whenever. Stay connected on the SABC News Facebook page and have your say on news that matters to you. And for the latest headlines and live updates from our reporters, follow us on Twitter. SABC Digital News, anytime, anywhere.
Technology isn't all scary. There's also fun stuff like gaming.
Lots of women do play games, whether it's on their phones or their tablets.
Then there are Africans who are using new tools to make other people's lives much easier.
We typed the whole CV on a small, QWERTY Nokia phone.
For all these and other technology and social media news, join me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC News.
You're watching Newsroom. Now, two of the main litigants in the Nkandla Constitutional Court matter are yet to pronounce on whether or not they want to continue with the case. The EFF and the Office of the Public Protector are still studying the legal implications of President Jacob Zuma's offer to pay back a portion of the 246 million rand spent on upgrading his Nkandla home. The DA has rejected the proposal and wants the matter to proceed at the Constitutional Court next week, Tuesday.
It has been a long, drawn-out battle. 2 years since the public protector recommended the president pay back a portion spent on non-security upgrades at his Nkandla home. Various institutions launched investigations. The Police Ministry, Public Works and the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee all cleared the president. But this did not deter the opposition parties, particularly the EFF, which went to the highest court to force the president to pay. The president proposes that the Auditor General be part of determining the amount to be paid, a suggestion that was not part of the Public Protector's recommendations.
As the Public Protector team, we are ready for the court case in the Constitutional Court on Tuesday next week. I must indicate, though, that the President's intervention requires me and my team and our lawyers to sit down and review our situation. So we can't just blindly continue with the constitutional process.
The ruling party says the president's decision is a step in the right direction.
It's not an admission of guilt, but I think in the interest of taking forward the country, but making sure that we focus on many other issues, the president is prepared to pay a certain amount, which will be determined by the authorities, which among others he has suggested in his letter to his offer to Concord.
But for the official opposition, the Nkandla battle is far from over.
He, first of all, accused the public protector of being keen only to an ombudsman, which was the first assault on, in fact, the remedial action and the powers given to the public protector. He then proceeded to replace the process with parallel processes. And now suddenly for him to stand before the people of this country to say he was intent on paying.
Analysts believe the president's proposal will lessen tensions ahead of the State of the Nation address next week. Aldrin Simpier, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, we're asking you a very important question today, right? And that question relates to the fourth industrial revolution. We're asking you, are we ready? Are you ready for this digital revolution? That's the fourth industrial revolution. It's more than digital. It's also about technology. It's about the Internet of Things. You heard Arthur Goldstuck a little earlier of that's happening currently globally. Now, over the next 5 years, automation and robots will eliminate 5.1 million jobs. You heard that from Arthur Goldstuck as well, according to a new report from the World Economic Forum. Now, the fear is that robots will take over the world. Virtual reality will replace normal relationships, and new technologies will destroy jobs. Technology has influenced people, and many industries are adapting according to their technological needs. All industrial revolutions, as you know, bring disruption, economic, political, and social disruptions. And the fourth industrial revolution heralds significant changes for businesses, governments, media, civil society organizations, which have dominated in recent decades. Now, to discuss this trend and the impact on young entrepreneurs and business, we are joined by Matsi Modisa, the Managing Director of Somodisa. A very good morning to you and welcome, Matsi.
Good morning, Elvis. Good morning.
Now, first and foremostly, tell us about your business and what do you do?
Sure, it's not a business, it's an industry association. And essentially, we are an advocacy group for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. We do a lot of research around startups and the entrepreneurship ecosystem. We publish reports, we engage the government and the public sector, and also we're promoting the growth of venture capital, which is our country's ability to invest in startups and ideas. And we've created a community of entrepreneurship in South Africa, and we're constantly engaging young and old and all sorts of entrepreneurs.
So it's the issue of entrepreneurship and promoting it and making sure that they survive.
Absolutely.
Within a very competitive industry.
Very, very important. I mean, what's the point of starting something if you're not going to follow it through and ensure that it's successful? So through all the interventions, our organization engages the relevant people to ensure that at the end of the day, small businesses will survive.
Now, you were in Davos at the WEF, where the fourth industrial revolution was discussed. Your thoughts on the fourth industrial revolution and what came out of that particular discussion?
My thoughts was it's already started. You can look at industries that have already been disrupted. You look at Uber, you look at Airbnb. I mean, it's essentially not starting new systems. It's about how do we make current systems efficient and how do we use technology to underpin that.
Are our businesses here in South Africa geared towards this fourth industrial revolution? Can they see it coming?
Well, my thoughts on that is that in South Africa, we find a lot of people in a lot of areas that are still stuck in the first, the second, and the third industrial revolution. First being there's no access to ability for people to move, because the first industrial revolution was about locomotives. The second one was electricity. Now, last year we were struggling with, a shortage of electricity. So we're still stuck in the second industrial revolution. And also the third industrial revolution is the Internet of Things. It's about the internet, but you do know that there's a lot of people that don't have access to the internet. So yes, Some of us are privy to the fourth industrial revolution, but a lot of us are still stuck in the first and second and third industrial revolutions.
And surely that does have a direct impact on business and how we conduct business in our country.
Absolutely, it does. I mean, when you talk about the fourth industrial revolution, it's about how a lot of jobs are going to be lost. I mean, there's a report that's written about 5 million jobs within the next 5 years, within 15 developing and emerging countries are going to be lost. And this is going to impact white-collar jobs, administrative jobs, and essentially we need to focus on how do we equip our young people and South Africans for, jobs of the future. STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Those are the key critical skills. Young people need to be able to know how to code. I mean, you find 9-year-olds being taught how to code in a lot of developed countries. How can we actually impart that within our economy in South Africa?
Entrepreneurs, will they definitely benefit perhaps from this fourth industrial revolution?
Yes, it's about scale, it's about efficiency, it's about speed, it's about how do we, with our current systems, ensure that it's scalable. I mean, I can be having a small little tuck shop in Soweto or a small little shop that sells beads, but anybody in New York can know about these beautiful beads that I do because of internet, because of technology. So definitely there is a means. It is essentially ensuring that there is visibility, and there's ability for people to be part of the digital marketplace.
Your message for those featuring or looking at this unknown that's coming to them and how they should prepare themselves for this Internet of Things to come?
I would say our responsibility, the public and the private sector, is to ensure that we create an enabling environment. How do we give access to entrepreneurs? How do we give them access to funding? I mean, venture capital is very, very key in South Africa because that's essentially what fuels technology and entrepreneurship within technology. So is how do we create a robust environment to create more entrepreneurs within this fourth industrial revolution?
Now, entrepreneurs out there that want to get in touch with you, how do they reach you to make sure that they can perhaps get that venture capital that you're looking for?
So I'm the MD of CIMODISA, which is an industry association, and you can catch us online at www.cimodisa.org. We're on Twitter, CIMODISA SA, and Facebook, CIMODISA Association, and you're more than welcome to go online and check us out. But we are happy to support entrepreneurs. We're promoting technology, we're promoting venture capital, and essentially we want more businesses to be sustainable.
You're an absolute star, my dear. Thank you so much, Matsi, for joining us here in studio. Matsi Modise, she's the managing director of CIMODISA. Now you can check him out online, she says. Now, for a weather update, here is the man that knows it all. He can give you all the weather in the world. Later on, we'll be chatting to him about whether or not. Here's Tsetsi Monare.
Welcome from the weather desk. Indeed, I'm here to give you all that you need to know. So let's have a look at this map, starting off with the rainfall towards the southeastern as well as over the northeastern parts of southern Africa. Definitely towards KwaZulu-Natal as well as over Mozambique, we should look out for heavy rainfall and possibilities of severe thunderstorms over much of the eastern interior. The rainfall continues towards the northern part of southern Africa into Zambia, some parts of Tanzania, and definitely over the northern part of Mozambique. Madagascar as well expects a bit of rainfall today. Clear skies are expected for much of the western half of South Africa. Dry weather towards Upington. Temperatures also quite high up into the upper 30s. 39 for Gaborone, also being one of the hottest ones, or hottest cities here in southern Africa, but does not compare with Lephalale as well as over places such as Tabazimbi. Those will be into the lower 40s. 33 towards Maputo, Pietermaritzburg 24. Nice and cool weather for PE, but it's getting warmer towards Cape Town. It will reach a maximum of 29 degrees. Now towards the central parts, as usual, there's also lots of rain that is expected here. Showers moving in towards the central parts, going all the way into Lilongwe and Malawi, as well as over Dar es Salaam. You should expect rain right across the day and possibilities of showers strengthening towards the northern part of Mozambique as well as just along the southern part of Tanzania. Kenya also expects a bit of rain, but temperatures are expected to be into the upper 20s. For Nairobi at 27 degrees, sunny skies are expected just to start off your day, but late in the afternoon there should be a bit of rain. Kinshasa, very hot, 37 is your maximum, as well as over Brazzaville. Libreville is slightly cooler, 28 degrees. Compared to those two, Temperatures dropping by almost 9 degrees for Brazzaville. Yaoundé 33 in the central parts of Cameroon. Partly cloudy skies are expected along the coastal path. And for all those that are going to be traveling towards Saudi Arabia as well as the central part of North Africa, expect clear conditions. Not much rainfall is expected here. Dry weather also coming up. And then temperatures also slightly cooler. Temperatures into the lower side of the 20s for Cairo. Damascus even goes below 20 degrees to 16 degrees. And then we're still seeing that odd single digit for Baghdad. I can bet you Tehran is also expecting cooler conditions there, just around 6 or 7 degrees. Luxor 27, so stabilizing and normality a bit coming in towards Mecca. 31 is your maximum temperatures. Partly cloudy skies. A little bit of rain expected just along the central part of Sana'a. Djibouti also expecting just some clouds, but sunny skies for much of West Africa. Not much is happening here. There's a trace or a little bit of clouds and moisture coming in, but most of it going down south into Cameroon. Central African Republic, very hot temperatures, just around 41 degrees. In Jamena, in fact, it's now at 37. Naimi 36. Marrakesh is at 25, so a bit of a pickup in terms of temperatures, getting a bit warmer. Sunny skies towards Dakar, Conakry, as well as Abidjan. That's where I leave it for the weather. Do stay tuned. There should be more later on.
As stories are broken around the world, SABC makes sure you do not miss out. As the stories unfold throughout the day, News at 8 updates all newsworthy stories worldwide. Globally, we are there. Locally, we leave no story untold. Make a date with News at 8 every Saturday and Sunday on SABC News, Africa's news leader.
The act of travel is an eye-opening activity that not only expands your view but is a major part of any country's economy. South Africa's spectacular scenery, friendly people and world-class infrastructure make it one of the most desired destinations in the world. Despite tough global economic conditions, the tourism sector is steadily growing. But the idea that one has to go far in order to explore is quickly changing as the sector encourages local exploration. South Africa's history has been one of confrontation, but is now also known as one of reconciliation. World-class sites have been established to commemorate the country's past and celebrate its newfound unity. An area of tourism that is often overlooked is the question of the arts and tourism. Although many cities have not taken advantage of this element to attract international visitors, the domestic artistic tourism is fast becoming a key drawcard for local exploration. A-grade exhibition centers are creating modern spaces to showcase what makes up the African expression. A good dose of creative capital is playing a major role as entrepreneurs create new and exciting ways to sell their products, thus creating new vibrant local spaces that are changing the face of our communities. South Africa has earmarked tourism as a key sector with excellent potential for growth, and a vast amount is being poured into changing the face of our spaces, making them vibrant, urban, and exciting.
A very good afternoon. You're watching the Midday Report.
Lunchtime news amplified.
But for now, this is what they call home. Their hope to shift to a higher ground seems to be against the tide.
Midday Report provides you with more than just news stories.
A
just want Port Elizabeth to know that they own a world-class theatre.
Good afternoon. You're with the news at 1 in the headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. This is News Live. I'm Natasha Thorpe. Let's take a quick look at what's coming up in your headlines.
Good afternoon and welcome to A View from the House.
For all things news, tune in to Midday Report weekdays at 12 noon only on the SABC News channel.
It's 10:00 hours Central Africa time on this Thursday, the 4th of February 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News, channel 404, your favorite channel, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome to the second hour. I'm Elvis Preslin. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. You have to stay with us as we broadcast live from our Auckland Park studio, Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. As you know, we're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Now, we're asking you a very important question today. Are you ready for the fourth industrial revolution? I would like to know from you. Are we ready as a country? Are we ready as a world out there? Let us know on our Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom and, of course, the Facebook page. If you like us there, you become part and parcel of this growing family. But first, let's take a look at your news headlines. All eyes on the two main litigants in the Nkandla Constitutional Court matter on whether they will continue with the case. President Jacob Zuma accuses the Western Cape Premier Helen Zille of abusing his trust after she released what he says was confidential information. And the countrywide public hearings on Eskom's application for an additional tariff hike move to Midrand north of Johannesburg today. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Nkandla. What's happening on the sports front? Very good morning.
Good morning, Elvis. It's desperate times and desperate days for Cricket South Africa as yet another loss gets put under our belt, but more about that a little later. Good morning to you. My name is Nkandla, and I've got your sports later on today. This is what's coming up. England and the weather rain on the Proteas' parade. South Africa lose the first ODI by 39 runs on the Duckworth-Lewis method. And it was an unhappy reunion for Roger de Sá and Pirates last night as his former club beat Ajax 2-1 at Orlando Stadium. With that said, it was a night to forget for PSL goalkeepers as first Jakola, then Bar gifted goals to the opposition.
Situation here, Bar in his first start in the PSL, being put under pressure by Eliza Rogers.
What do you know? The men in yellow having a night to forget in the PSL. How about all of that a little later, in about 20 minutes or so. Back to you, Elvis.
Thank you, Kendall. He will be back a little bit later, so you have to stay tuned. Now, two of the main litigants in the Nkandla Constitutional Court matter are yet to pronounce on whether or not they want to continue with the case. This is your top story. The two litigants, the EFF and the Office of the Public Protector, are still studying the legal implications of President Jacob Zuma's offer to pay back a portion of the 246 million rand spent on upgrading his Nkandla home. The DA has rejected the proposal and wants the matter to proceed at the Constitutional Court next week, Tuesday.
It has been a long, drawn-out battle. 2 years since the public protector recommended the president pay back a portion spent on non-security upgrades at his Nkandla home. Various institutions launched investigations. The Police Ministry, Public Works and the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee all cleared the President. But this did not deter the opposition parties, particularly the EFF, which went to the highest court to force the President to pay. The President proposes that the Auditor General be part of determining the amount to be paid, a suggestion that was not part of the Public Protector's recommendations.
As the Public Protector team, we are ready for the court case in the Constitutional Court on Tuesday next week. I must indicate, though, that the President's intervention requires me and my team and our lawyers to sit down and review our situation. So we can't just blindly continue with the constitutional process.
The ruling party says the President's decision is a step in the right direction.
It's not an admission of guilty, but I think in the interest of taking forward the country, but making sure that we focus on many other issues, the President is prepared to pay a certain amount, which will be determined by the authorities, which, among others, he has suggested in his letter to his offer to Concord.
But for the official opposition, the Nkandla battle is far from over.
He, first of all, accused the Public Protector of being keen only to an ombudsman, which was the first assault on, in fact, the remedial action and the powers given to the Public Protector. He then proceeded to replace the process with parallel processes. And now suddenly for him to stand before the people of this country to say he was intent on paying.
Analysts believe the President's proposal will lessen tensions ahead of the State of the Nation address next week. Aldrin St-Pierre, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Meanwhile, President Jacob Zuma has accused the Western Cape Premier Helen Zille of abusing his trust after she released what he says was confidential information. Zille said in a statement that the President had told provincial premiers at a meeting in Pretoria that he would make deep cuts to budget allocations. He said that the country's economic plight had forced his hand. The presidency says the confidential content of this meeting ahead of Zuma's State of the Nation address and the Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan's budget speech were released without authorization. The FW de Klerk Foundation has dismissed the laying of charges by the newly formed Anti-Racism Forum against the former state president. The foundation described the charges as an attempt by an unknown organization to generate divisive and sensational publicity. A former EFF leader, Andile Mkhatana, and members of the forum laid 22 charges at the Hillbrow police station in Johannesburg against de Klerk and apartheid-era law and order minister Adrian Flock. The forum wants them to answer for the Boy Patong and the Bisho massacres, as well as train and township killings before 1994. In 1998, Flock told the TRC, that's the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, that de Klerk knew of illegal security force operations. Refuting the allegations, de Klerk refuses rather to apply for amnesty. TransUnion released the Consumer Credit Index later today. Now, the index shows a marginal decrease in the fourth quarter in 2015 to 52 points, or 52.1 from 52.3 in the fourth quarter in 2014. Consumer credit behavior remains stable in the fourth quarter of 2015, which is quite surprising, and neither materially worsened nor improved from the third quarter. Encouragingly, the number of new defaults declined 5.1% from a year earlier. Now, while distressed credit and store card utilization, a measure of distressed borrowing, remained roughly stable. To tell us more about that and the index, we're joined in studio by TransUnion CEO Jeff Miller. Jeff, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Alice.
Now, what came out of the index that you're going to release a little bit later today? Because as I indicated earlier, it's a little bit surprising for me in the fourth quarter that it was stable, because it's festive season and people like to spend money.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it was relatively stable, but slightly down. I think that's what we expected. Obviously, the economy is not getting any better. We really don't see the effects of the festive spending until Q1. So consumers tend to rack up a lot of debt, and then they miss repayments as we get into the new year. What was a little bit concerning for me was that credit card utilization was up 13% over last year. And that probably means that consumers don't have the extra cash, so they're using credit cards to cover those everyday purchases. The index also doesn't take into account, obviously, the huge depreciation in the rand that occurred in December, nor the 50 basis point interest rate increase that happened in Q1. So we're a little pessimistic as we head into the new year.
Explain to me, that shows a marginal decrease in the fourth quarter in 2015 from 52.1 to 52.3.
Yeah. So, you know, if we're above 50, it means we're relatively stable. Once we get below 50, it means credit health is declining. So we're kind of on that cusp. As I said, you know, we're very concerned because of the depreciation of the rand, the uptick in inflation, plus the increase in interest rates, that consumers that have increased spending or, you know, maybe went a little too far in the festive season are in for a rough Q1.
Now, we heard it from the Reserve Bank that there might be some more increases this year. What does now this index show for household debt or service debt?
Yeah, so consumers seem
service
to be...
cost, rather,
yeah,
sorry.
Service cost. So, you know, there was a 25-point basis increase in Q4, which, you know, was negatively impacted in the index. And then we're going to see another 50 basis points next year. So those consumers that are having to repay mortgage bonds, vehicle asset finance, are going to be spending more. And those consumers taking out more loans or you know, incremental loans are going to be paying more.
So consumer behavior is showing a negative impact on the economy, perhaps, in terms of this?
Yeah. I mean, Q4, surprisingly, we saw retail sales up more than anyone anticipated. We don't believe that's sustainable. There's just not enough growth in the economy. There's not enough jobs being created, not enough wage or income growth. So we're pessimistic that consumers are in for a real tough 2016.
A weaker rand exchange rate raises the cost of living. We all know that. But how has this affected people's spending and consumer spending over the period?
Yeah, as you know, as we said, so we saw retail, retail spending rise sharply, at least more than anyone increased.
More retail than anything else?
Mostly retail. You know, that's where we have the best read. You know, you saw new vehicle sales have fallen almost double digits on a year-over-year basis. So I think consumer spending is going to be muted as we look to the future.
So not good news for South Africans, or for South African business for that matter?
No, unfortunately not. You know, the question is, is it going to get materially worse, or, you know, are we just going to kind of muddle through? And that, I think we're all going to have to see.
How does this feed into business confidence in the country?
Well, we've seen PMI and other things. You know, what we have seen is lenders being very, very cautious, and they have been for some time. So that's why we haven't necessarily seen a deterioration in the amount of delinquencies or consumers going under. So I think the financial system is well equipped and has seen this coming. But I think when consumers have contracted access to credit, their ability to spend is lessened. And, you know, the economy does drive on consumer spending.
Just explain to me, how does it actually work, TransUnion releasing this report? Yes. Is it only for TransUnion clients, or is it a global thing?
No, it's a global thing. So we've got, you know, a broader index, and we're starting to create some sub-indices to give to our clients, like our mortgage lenders want to know a little bit more, how does it impact mortgage, same with vehicle asset finance. So this is kind of the broad release, and then, you know, we talk with our clients more individually on how it impacts their business.
Does it also talk to consumers' credit ratings, for that matter, or not?
More broadly, but a consumer must really come to us to get a free copy of their credit report. You know, only 400,000 consumers a year come and get a free credit report.
And that's a free report?
It's a free report. 20 million consumers are credit active, 400,000 come and get a credit report. And that's the most important thing. So we really urge consumers to come to mytransunion.co.za. They can get a free report there, or they can call 0861 482 482.
Now, how do they get this report? What do they do?
So first of all, they need to provide information, their name, their address, their identity number. Clearly, we want to make sure that we're not releasing this report to someone else. So we ask them some questions that only they would know. And then they can either get that through mail, they can get it through fax, they can get it through email. So we try to make it as available as in a widely as medium as possible.
Now, the numbers on the screen there, mytransunion.co.za, where people can reach you, and of course 0861 482 482, right? Now, what does this report mean then for an individual that has got a credit report?
So it gives a total view of their financial history in terms of debt that they've taken out. So it'll show every account, whether it's been open or closed, if they have a current balance, are they behind payments, have they made all those payments on time? And if something's wrong, the consumer must come to us to tell us, and we'll manage that dispute for them and go back to the credit grantor. But it really gives the consumer a good sense for, how much debt is out there, how much am I spending on a monthly basis on my debt? And it's important because I think affordability is something that consumers don't always think about.
So before you even buy a car or household furniture, you first need to get that report to make sure that you're in the clear.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that companies don't charge you for trying to get yourself clear, because we normally see these adverts that says, don't worry about your debt, we'll source the finance for you.
Yeah. No, there's no free ride. The law is very clear. If you've taken out debt and you've not repaid it, you need to understand that, and you need to work out terms and conditions with the lenders. But it's just good because you need to make sure that's accurate, and you need to have a good understanding around how much finance you have out there.
Thank you so much for your time, Jeff Miller.
Thanks very much, Elvis.
Mr. Miller is the TransUnion CEO, and you can get your free, and let me make that clear, free, mahala, gratis, absolutely free. That report is available. All you have to do is go to the website or call them, TransUnion, and they will sort you out, give you a free report, and then you can go source your finance. Don't do it before then. That's good advice. Now, COSATU has discussed its plan of action against new pension tax laws at a special Central Executive Committee in Johannesburg. Before we get to the story, let me remind you of our question that we're posing to you, that are you ready for the fourth industrial revolution? It was on your screen. You can let us know while we're talking about this. Now, there's the question, are we ready for the digital revolution or the fourth industrial revolution? Remember, the digital revolution is already here, but it's the Internet of Things that you've got to be worried about. Let's go back to our story in COSATU now. The Labour Federation is opposed to an amendment stipulating that workers may only withdraw a third of your pension as a lump sum upon retirement, with the rest being invested in annuities. COSATU wants the legislation to be repealed. The Labour Federation has been in talks with the Treasury on that issue. At loggerheads with government, and we'll explore that issue. We did explore it before. We'll keep on exploring that issue. Now, government is to declare national disaster, so says Grain SA, so that the funds that's available can be released to help farmers through the worst drought in a century. The country's largest grain producer earlier said that higher than expected January plantings would reduce main imports to 3.8 million tonnes. Grain SA says late seeding has put young plants at high risk from extreme weather. The chief executive, Jannie de Villiers, says that the country now needs leadership to trigger a relief process. Should a national disaster be declared, emergency relief funds would be released from the Treasury to eligible farmers. SABC News has learned that the Minister of Agriculture and other stakeholders are currently meeting over this matter. Now to Eskom. The countrywide public hearings on Eskom's application for an additional tariff hike moved to Midrand, north of Johannesburg today. Eskom is seeking approval from the National Energy Regulator of South Africa to acquire an extra 22 billion rand. The power utility says already approved tariff hikes failed to factor in high diesel costs used to keep the lights on. Meanwhile, Eskom has served notice of its intention to suspend electricity supply to 8 Free State municipalities by the end of this month due to continued non-payment. Late last year, as you can recall, Eskom issued the first threat to cut off municipalities' power supply after it was revealed that they were owed almost 2 billion rand. Meanwhile, activist group Right to Know campaign is planning a protest at today's hearings. The group says that the public should not be made to pay for Eskom's bad management. 6 suspects who were accused of, for murder of a 57-year-old police officer in Madibong village near Jane First 2 weeks ago are expected to apply for bail in the Sekhukhune Magistrates Court in Skirnort in Limpopo this morning. Warrant Officer Joel Salocha and a team of detectives had arrested a suspect shortly after the funeral of his father when the suspect ran away. He called for help and mourners went after the police. Now 6 police officers escaped while Salocha was cornered. His service pistol was grabbed and allegedly used to kill him. The mourners claimed they mistook the 7 detectives in plain clothes for some criminals who shot and killed the man they were burying. Let's now move to international news. Syrian peace talks in Geneva are faltering as the fighting continues, and the focus is shifting to a donor conference in London today. The United Nations and its agencies are asking for as much as $9 billion or 144 billion rand to tackle the world's biggest humanitarian emergency.
It's a record appeal for Syria's desperate millions, and with the political track suspended in Geneva, the parallel humanitarian track is what matters in the short term.
We certainly have been pushing the case with member states, including in the Secretary General's own travels around the world, to make sure at this conference that you'll have full funding for our target. You're aware that what we're calling for ultimately spans as high as $9 billion, and we know that that's a lot. We know the financial circumstances of our member states, but at the same time, the needs are great.
Syria's total 2015 humanitarian appeal of $7 billion was only 56% funded, raising serious questions about donor fatigue given the multitude of crises around the world and the ambition required to meet the escalating needs for this drawn-out conflict, now almost in its 6th year and with no clear political way out.
This while neighbouring countries, in particular the likes of Turkey, Lebanon and Jordan, bear the mammoth burden of hosting those millions forced to flee.
No one can safely predict that these refugees from the Assad regime will be able to return home anytime soon. This protracted nature means that a new approach is necessary, and we've been working very closely with Jordan to develop an ambitious compact which will provide transformational financial support to benefit Jordanians, refugees and host communities.
The UN's mediator on Syria, Staffan de Mistura, earlier suspended peace talks in Geneva until February 25th. Sherwin Briceby's SABC News, New York.
The sexual assault case in Pennsylvania against Bill Cosby in the U.S. will go forward. A judge in Montgomery County ruled yesterday. Cosby's lawyers had argued for 2 days during a pretrial hearing that a criminal case had been barred by a promise made in 2005 by then District Attorney Bruce Castor never to prosecute the renowned entertainer.
A Pennsylvania judge refused to dismiss a sexual assault case against Bill Cosby on Wednesday, setting the stage for the first criminal prosecution of the once celebrated comedian who's for years denied allegations of assault by dozens of women. The decision was a loss for the 78-year-old entertainer who for decades was beloved by U.S. television audiences for his family-friendly brand of humor. Cosby's attorneys had tried to convince a Pennsylvania judge that their client could not be prosecuted due to an agreement reached with a former Montgomery County DA more than a decade ago. They never produced, though, a written agreement to that effect. More than 50 women have accused Cosby of sexually assaulting them in attacks dating back to the 1960s, and several lawsuits, civil, have been filed against him, though many of the incidents are too old to prosecute. Cosby, who sat still and silent through Wednesday's court hearing, could be sentenced to up to 10 years in prison if convicted.
SABC News. We report, contextualize and present news and current affairs honestly, fairly and fully. We consider it a duty to provide consistent, relevant, useful and top-quality information and analysis. Our mission is to provide credible, accurate and interesting news programming, bringing news into everyone's homes in everyone's languages. Thank you, South Africa, for relying on SABC News for quality news output and for making us your #1 source of information. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Health Talk looks into the increase of suicide and symptoms leading to suicide.
The death wish grows
when you go into depression after a lot of stress.
And often when we talk about suicide, we don't talk about a person wanting to stop living, but rather wanting to stop living in pain.
After losing everything in life that lead you to no options but suicide.
I had that spirit of fear in me to say, don't even face tomorrow.
After being overwhelmed with stress and trauma, it becomes difficult to have self-control.
People learning tools and skills that will practically enable them to meet these challenges.
In trying times, never be alone. Reach out for help to a better solution.
Support should be done by a counsellor or psychologist where you're able to speak about how you're feeling in a safe, accepting, non-judgmental space.
For all your health tips, join Dr. Silo Mutawuni every Saturday from 9 till 10.
Welcome back. My name is Nkandla Makhamate. I've got your sports on Newsroom, the time being 10:24. Proteas captain AB de Villiers says that the team were right on target before rain shortened the first ODI against England. South Africa lost the match by 39 runs on the Duckworth-Lewis method in Bloemfontein. The tourists took a 1-0 lead in the series thanks to the 400-run target they'd set after winning the toss and choosing to bat first. Now, England, who won the Test series 2-1, dominated from the beginning with half-centuries from Alex Hales, Joe Root and Ben Stokes.
And there it is.
The star for the English, however, was wicketkeeper Josh Buttler, who scored a 76-ball 105 to help see the team end 399 for 9 in their 50 overs. It was England's second highest ODI score. In reply, it did not start well for South Africa, as opener Hashim Amla was bowled by David Willey in the third over, and when support was needed for fellow starter Quinton de Kock, Ben Stokes took a brilliant catch on the boundary to escort captain de Villiers back to the pavilion with just 8 runs. Now, man of the match, de Kock stood tall and ended unbeaten on 138 from 96 balls. The 23-year-old reached the landmark of 2,000 ODI runs and is the youngest South African to ever do so. When the heavens opened in the drought-stricken province in the 34th over, the Proteas were on 250 for 5, nearly 40 runs short of the target. The second match of the five-match series at St. George's Park in Port Elizabeth is on Saturday.
I told you, he doesn't need to run anymore.
Starting to drizzle. And I think it's just too much for the umpires, and they will take the players off and bring on the covers.
It could have been better. It was a tough toss to lose. I think it was really hard on the bowlers the first 10 or 15 overs. It took us a while to realise that it was an incredibly good wicket. We're a little bit slow to adapt with our lengths, but I'm not going to be too hard on the bowlers. I don't think that bad of a day. I think we showed it with the bat in hand, cruising at 7.5 and over, not even trying to push the run rate up. So it was a really good cricketing wicket, and I'm not going to be too hard on my bowlers. I think there are a few boundaries that were a little bit soft throughout the innings, but overall a decent effort to get them 9 down.
Now, Kagiso Rabada and Themba Bavuma have become shining beacons in South African cricket, even though the Proteas lost the recent Test series 2-1 to England as well as the ODI yesterday. Unfortunately, Mfuneko Ngam remains one of the few black African cricketers who progressed to the national team from a township school. Former Proteas player and World Cup winning coach with India, Gary Kirsten, aims to change that by providing nets, equipment and coaches to as many schools as possible in Khayelitsha.
Kirsten was amazed at the almost total lack of facilities or nets at schools in Khayelitsha. Through his foundation, he has provided nets, equipment and coaches here at the Chris Hani School and also at the nearby Sipamandla Secondary School.
Gary and myself, we are on the same page on sports development in the township. We want to bring in facilities for our school kids so that they can be nurtured at school and then they develop in the same environment, because it's of no use to take all the kids from the township and send them to the private school or the former Model C schools for their development.
It's small, but it's a start. The nets cost 90,000 Rand to build, And Kirsten wants the program to grow to 40-50 schools if possible.
We want to ensure that we have more Rabada and more Bavumas coming from our local schools. So it's for me and Gary Kirsten, it's one of the things that we want to do to support cricket development.
The enthusiasm and passion amongst the boys and girls is prevalent, and the growth after just 6 months evident.
I like playing cricket. I enjoy it too much because it keeps me busy, keeps me away from everything in the streets, from gangsters.
It's very nice to have everything here because we grew up in a disadvantaged communities, not having like infrastructure. So we're very grateful to Gary Kirsten for providing us with the stuff.
It's a good thing, and I thank Gary for making us these nets, and we're getting a lot of practice.
The Gary Kirsten Foundation is appealing to local businesses, sponsors and cricket lovers for funding to support the cricket ecosystem campaign in township schools.
We are appealing to the Minister of Sport, Mr. Mbalula, to really talk and walk the talk. You know, he's saying that school sport is the key for his government, and we want him to show with us here in Khayelitsha what can be done by providing more sporting facility and funding.
If any parties are interested in helping to make a difference, the details are at www.garykirsten.com. Craig Murray, SABC News, Cape Town.
Orlando Pirates narrowly beat Ajax Cape Town 2-1 at Orlando Stadium, thanks in part to an error at the back between defender Rivaldo Kutsia and keeper Jack Kola. And Polokwane City made home ground advantage count as they came from behind to thrash Maritzburg United 3-1 at the old Peter Mokaba Stadium.
Ajax were very unfortunate, first losing key striker Nathan Paulse, and later on Rivaldo Kutsia's back pass slipped under Ansi Yakola's foot and went into the net.
Back to Jakola, what a bad error!
Pirates doubled their lead through Sfiso Mieni.
Little square ball for Mieni, easy tap away.
Prince Ngumalo took advantage of Eden Kima's poor defending and pulled one back for the visitors. Diolin Mekwa combined well with Ketlenkis and opened the scoring for Maritzburg. Nketi equalized for Polokwane City early in the second half.
Oh my word! It's a freak shot!
Minutes later, Tabani Ngango put City into the lead.
And Ngango capitalizes!
Maritzburg defender Brian Onyango was red-carded after blocking the ball with his hand inside the box, and the home side were awarded a penalty, but Jabulani Maluleke missed from the spot. Sipho Jambula sealed a 3-1 victory for City. Bidvest Feds failed to close gap on the Absa Premiership leaders after playing to a 1-1 draw against Platinum Stars at the Bidvest Stadium. The Clever Boys are third on the log with 33 points, 6 behind Mamelodi Sundowns, who are topping the table.
All right, let's have a quick look at the results from last night's PSL action. As you can see, Mamelodi Sundowns 3-0, Chippa United. These were matches from the other night on Tuesday. Cosmos 0-0 for Black Aces, 2-0 win for Chiefs against Arrows. And last night, Wednesday, 3rd of February, Free State Stars and Ducks, a 2-2 draw. And then Orlando Pirates back to winning ways, it seems. It was old coach Roger Desar coming back to his old club, bringing Ajax Cape Town, losing 2-1 there. Bloom Celtic 1-0 against SuperSport United. Stuart Baxter's first game in charge of SuperSport United there. A 1-0 draw for him. Bidvest first 1-0 draw as well against Platinum Stars. Vets seemingly losing ground to Mamelodi Sundowns, topping the log, which we will talk about just now. Polokwane City beating Maritzburg 3-1. Maritzburg thought they were home scot-free, but Polokwane City managed to come back and beat them 3-1 by a whole 2 goals there. Now let's have a look at the log standings to see what's happening with the top 8. Mamelodi Sundowns running away with it, 5 points clear of the next. Black Aces, really Black Aces must be the story of this particular season. Mpumalanga Black Aces are sitting second on the log. To give you a moment to just take that in. Then Bidvest Vets on 33 points are sitting third, Kaizer Chiefs still in fourth, and movements, Free State Stars and Chippa United swapping places, and Bloom Celtic moving upwards to top 8. We go through to the bottom half of the log. And there you'll see a little bit more movement happening there. Golden Arrows slipping downwards into 9th position on 21 points, but also on 21 are SuperSport United in Polokwane City. Polokwane moving upwards into 11th position. Orlando Pirates in 12th. Ajax Cape Town moving down to 13th position after that loss at Orlando Stadium. Then Ducks and Maritzburg United still sitting in the relegation zone on a -13 and -18 goal difference respectively. Now 20 years ago on the 3rd of February 1996, Bafana Bafana, South Africa's men's national football team, were bathed in glory as they were crowned the African Cup of Nations champions. The moment was theirs and they took it, putting the world at their feet. Last night in their post-match interviews, Wits' coach Gavin Hunt and Platinum Stars' Kevin Johnson shared their memories of the victorious 1996 Bafana Bafana team, which won the AFCON.
Yeah, it was good. It was fantastic times and a fantastic team, but it just shows you where we've gone as a country and a whole as in our football, isn't it? We've gone backwards, and it's very sad to see. So hopefully we can get back to those lofty heights again, and I'm sure we can one day with the right structures.
We played the curtain raiser for 1996, the School of Excellence, you remember. So I was on the side of the pitch, and I looked at Neil pick up the trophy, and I think the class of that era was a good class of players. They played for their country, they played with their hearts, and most of all, they won the trophy. So to that group of players, I think they done the country proud. And we still see some of them walking around today. Some of them in high positions, like Neil, for example, like Eric Tinkler, like Roger Dessau, like Sean Bartlett. They're all giving something back to football, and we are happy for that. And hopefully we're able to build another 1996 team with Sheikhs in charge.
And that's where we leave it with the sports for this hour. Elvis President is coming back after this very short break. Make sure you stay close.
Controlesa is actually stirring the pot here.
I'm sure they've been consulted as Controlesa. They did not see a snake. Now that in certain areas there are certain benefits that might possibly be accruing, there is a snake, now we need to reverse the process.
I agree, but it is not above the sovereignty of the people. The very same court you're talking about.
The sovereignty of the people, probably you should explain that to me.
The sovereignty of the people is above everything.
It is not proper the way facts are presented to the public. Are you in contact with Khosekgolo Motshodi?
He was kicked out by the court because he wanted to be amicus curiae.
For your weekly dose of all things legal, join Dumile Mateza every Sunday at 2 p.m. only on SABC News Channel.
SABC News. We report, contextualize and present news and current affairs honestly, fairly and fully. We consider it a duty to provide consistent, relevant, useful and top-quality information and analysis. Our mission is to provide credible, accurate and interesting news programming, bringing news into everyone's homes in everyone's languages. Thank you, South Africa, for relying on SABC News for quality news output and for making us your #1 source of information. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Now, COSATU will hold a media briefing following its Central Executive Committee meeting on the new tax laws. It is currently in talks with Treasury, while President Jacob Zuma said that the tax laws will only be reviewed in 2 years' time. Our reporter Tumaole Mashlauli is in Braamfontein, where the press briefing will take place. Tumaole, a very good morning to you. And can you tell us what exactly is going to happen a little bit later?
Well, good morning to you, Elvis. Well, all eyes will be on COSATU President Stu Modlamini as he delivers the outcome of a special Central Executive Committee meeting which COSATU held to discuss this matter. Now, already in terms of the public statements that Dlamini has made, you can tell that COSATU is really unhappy, especially with the tax law. But if you look at it in context, it's not only the tax law that has left the Trade Union Federation unhappy with how it's being dealt with within the alliance. partnership, especially by the ANC. There was also the issue, of course, of e-tolls and the other issue of service brokers that work within the issue of the employees. So this is one of the issues that will be discussed here today, the major one. And COSATU is very, very unhappy, saying that it should not be forced, as the new legislation does, for workers to not have their lump sum pension payouts because they feel that this will hinder workers who work for years and years and then don't have the right to receive their money, as has been done in the past. But government has in the past also argued that this will help workers because their money will be reinvested. About 2/3 of their pension funds will be reinvested, so that you don't find a situation where workers get a lump sum and then through bad investment and through bad advice from unscrupulous brokers end up being destitute. So we will wait to find out exactly how this will play out. COSATU has also said that it will be very difficult for the Trade Union Federation to go and canvass support for the ANC when the time comes for campaigning in the build-up to the local government elections, because the workers are very unhappy because they feel that their power to decide what they do with their pension fund has been taken away from them. So these are very, very strong words. We'll wait to see exactly what decisions were taken, whether COSATU will then still go out onto the ground and canvass support for the ANC in the upcoming local government elections.
Now, we heard the pronouncement from COSATU already that they're not very happy about this. Are we also likely to hear about the proper protest that they are planning?
Yes, that will be one of the issues that will be discussed in terms of what the protest plan will be. Of course, COSATU is going to detail the plans, where the protest will happen, and in terms of how it'll go forward, because already now the law has been signed by the president, so it'll be very difficult for it to be reversed. We do know that, but COSATU is digging in its heels, saying that it cannot accept a law where it will find its members, especially the workers who have been working for so long and now are about to go into retirement, and with the law coming into effect within about 2 years, they will not have any particular power to decide what to do with their own pensions, despite the arguments put aside by the state. So we will find out the details of the march, and it is expected, from what we're being told, that COSATU wants it to be a bumper march to show that the unhappiness is widespread. It's not just an issue of a few of its members being unhappy with this issue, that all its member federations are not pleased with government's decision.
So who else is expected to be at that briefing, and what time is it starting?
Well, the briefing is scheduled to start within the hour. So we are expecting COSATU's top leadership to be here to be fielding questions from the media. Of course, a large media contingent is also expected to attend the briefing by COSATU President Stumo Dlamini, of course, and his top executive members. And this is what we are expecting, what we're being told. For now, it's still relatively quiet, but we will be taking it live on SABC News, so you can tune in and hear exactly what the COSATU's top brass will have to share with the nation.
Tumali, thank you so much for your time. That was Tumali Mshlauli in Braamfontein, coming to us live, as you know, that we're covering that live here on SABC News, Channel 404, your favorite channel of choice. Now, the South African Confederation of Agricultural Unions CEO Ismail Sunga took a strong message to Davos to call for greater global attention for the world's farmers, particularly smallholder farmers in sub-Saharan Africa, in order to improve food security. Global demand for food and agricultural products is increasingly rapidly on the decrease, and this in the face of major threats and challenges such as climate change and low commodity prices. Now, how will the fourth industrial revolution affect the farming industry? Now, for more on this, we are joined by the South African Confederation of Agricultural Unions CEO, Mr. Sunga. Very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Morning, Jonathan.
First and foremost, you were in Davos. You took a very strong message. Tell me about that. How was it received?
Before I say that, let me talk briefly about my organization, because many people apparently don't know about it. It's called the Southern African Confederation of Agricultural Unions. We are the voice of farmers on all regional, global international matters that impact on agriculture in Southern Africa. We represent farmers through their national apex bodies. In the case of South Africa, we have Agri-SA, and AFASA is our members. And we have membership in all the different countries in Southern Africa. So a fairly big organization.
So it's not just South Africa or Southern Africa?
It's Southern Africa. South Africa is a very small part of what we do. So when we speak, we are speaking with the loudest voice on behalf of farmers. Our membership cuts across all different types of farmers: smallholder farmers, large-scale farmers, medium-scale farmers, women farmers, young farmers. We are very much inclusive to a large extent. Now, Davos was an interesting place to be this time. I've been there a couple of times before, but this time it was a fascinating experience for me. And
Why?
I think it's a fascinating experience for agriculture in general. In the agricultural sector, we felt that in the past, a few things are changing. Quite a few things are changing. Things are reverberating on the ground, but we couldn't quite pin it down. But Davos, for me, confirmed the fact that it's a bigger thing that is happening. It is massive, it is transformative, it is not only about agriculture, it's about entire economies. This is what they are calling the fourth industrial revolution, which is going to be driven partly to a large extent by technology in the biological, human, and physical sciences. And ICTs are going to be fundamental. When I look at that whole discussion of the fourth industrial revolution, I then look at Southern Africa and Africa in general, and perhaps developing countries in general, who are mainly agro-based. It basically means that it is going to be agro-industrialization. That then puts the farmer at the center. That puts agriculture at the center. In the face of all these things that you alluded to as we started. So just to be able to understand that we are at the threshold of standing in the middle of this exciting fourth industrial revolution. And when I say we, I mean the farming community, that they may be actually the drivers that are going to be driving us into the future.
Is that a scary thought for the agricultural sector or not?
For me, I see more the positives. I see a lot of disruptions that are going to happen, and I think disruptions are very, very necessary. On the argument that things as they are, that equilibrium that we have at the moment is not optimal equilibrium. We need to shake things a bit up and begin to move with speed, with enthusiasm, looking at more prosperous future, looking at more inclusive agricultural systems, looking at food that is produced in an ethical manner. So those things are going to be important. And I think that will also shake agriculture. But the important thing for me also is that agriculture needs to awaken to the fact that there are things that are happening that are going beyond agriculture and that are going to be very fundamental for the future.
Now, some of our previous speakers that indicate it will have a big impact. 5.1 million job losses, so says the WEF. We might even expect more. In your industry, do you think that that might be the case, that there will be job losses?
I think there's going to be gains and losses, but overall, in my view, there are going to be more gains than losses. In any case, if you have jobs that are not very good jobs, at a very suboptimal level, it's not a good thing to do. So maintaining a status quo that is not optimal, one would argue, is not the best approach. If it means that to move forward, you are going to discard things that may be undesirable, then I think it's a good thing to happen. It increases efficiency. It increases, I think, chances or enhances prosperity of those that are in the system. If there are going to be people who are going to be shedded along the chain, along the way, let's not necessarily see that as a negative. It could actually be the positive that you are looking for. That will give more impetus to agricultural development in the region and the world at large.
That's very forward thinking. But what does that mean for the farmers, the farm workers on the ground? For the farmers, it could be a positive because not much people to employ, and of course mechanization on their farms. But for the workers, there'll be job losses.
Yeah, but it does not mean that if you are not employed in primary production, you cannot be employed up the chain. There will be a lot of up the chain activities because agriculture begins before agriculture, the agro production, and ends well after that. And those opportunities for the industrialization, manufacturing related to that, and other ancillary activities and industries that will form is where they are going to be absorbed. So I don't, yes, there are going to be bad things, but there are going to be a lot more good things for the future, in my view.
Do you think that the agricultural sector is ready for the fourth industrial revolution?
Part of my major concern, as I was listening to the discussions in Davos, as I also was discussing with my colleagues, is that whilst all these things happening, agriculture seems not to understand that there's something fundamental happening. So if you don't know that there's something happening, it's unlikely that you are going to be able to do something about it. So part of our agenda as a regional entity is to begin to mainstream the fourth industrialization project into our discourse and begin to expose our colleagues to the opportunities and the threats and to locate ourselves with the prime drivers, because it's not a contested fact that agricultural development, that industrialization in Southern Africa is going to be based on agriculture. So we are at the center. And this time around, if it escapes us, the benefits of industrialization as farmers and as the agricultural sector, then we have ourselves only to blame. But we need to know what is happening to be able to manage it.
How quick can we transform into the fourth industrial revolution? Because some of our previous speakers said that if you look at our economy as it stands, we are still looking at the third industrial revolution.
Yes, well, part of the discussion is whether we are not already in it. We are perhaps not going to be in it. We are already in it. So let's behave as if we are already in it, because we can see these fundamental changes. In the agricultural sector, the sector itself has become more knowledge intensive, more information intensive, and the global food systems have become more complex, and it now requires a new cadre of farmer to be able to manage it. I see a new generation of farmers, young farmers, coupled with ICTs, and coupled with technology, and coupled finally with entrepreneurship development in the agricultural sector as the dynamite that we are looking for.
So what you are seeing is transformation, and you're calling for transformation.
Well, things as they are needs to be transformed. They need to be shaken quite a bit, because they've settled at a level that is not optimal. So we need to change, we need to move, and we need to take the pains of change, and we need to embrace the benefits of change so that we move into the future. And as I say, I need to emphasize this, that technology, digital technology, is going to be massive a driver in agricultural development, not least because it is going to make it easier for the young to come in. But if you put business development in it so that we do agriculture as a big business, that you can also buy a Mercedes-Benz as a young farmer because you are a farmer, not that you are relegated to the bottom of the chain.
And not buy a Bucky, but rather Mercedes-Benz.
That's right. But also important is that ICTs have transformed in the social sphere. Yes. If you look at the Arab Spring, it's all based on ICT. So the ability to communicate is important, because access to information has become one of the most competitive factors. If you don't have it, that information, you are history. And it will bring the benefits at the widest scale, at the shortest period of time, at the fastest pace, and we're more likely going to be more inclusive. So for me, investing in ICTs means also investing in connectivity, which also means investing fundamentally in that infrastructure that allows ICTs and connectivity to happen to the hinterland where most of the farmers are located.
And that is the type of skill that the new farmer and even the farm worker would require.
Exactly. We need to master what is happening and then master ICTs and machinery to drive us into the future. And it's not too late. We are seated right in there, right there.
Sir, thank you so much for your time and joining us here.
A pleasure.
That was the CEO of the South African Confederation of Agricultural Unions, Mr. Ismail Sungu, joining us here in studio. Now, let's take a look at what is happening on our Newsroom Facebook page and to see what's happening there. Eskom CEO Brian Molefe has confirmed that the power utility has served notice of its intention to suspend electricity supply to 8 Free State municipalities next month due to continued non-payment. Let's see if we can get that Facebook up and running there. Now, then, if we continue, if the Facebook page is up, yes, there we have it. That's the Eskom story that you've just seen there. That's happening currently. Then we move on to the African National Congress Youth League, who says that the public should refrain from aligning the ANC with the Gupta family. There you have it there with my money that cautious South Africa's there. And finally, as the Syrian peace talks in Geneva falter over continued fighting in the country, the focus now shifts to a donor conference in London. Now you can find all of these stories and more on our Newsroom Facebook page, or you can visit our SABC website at www.sabc.co.za/news. But right now, Nkandla is standing by with Tsetsi Monare.
Thank you very much, Eben. Now, it's not that time of the day, that time of the week when we talk whether or not with Tsetsi Monare. Now, as you all know, carbon emissions at the current rate could lead to a 4 degrees Celsius temperature rise that could eventually lead to sea levels rising, which would be responsible for the submerging of land occupied by, wait for this, over 500 million people across the globe. Paul Monari joins us, also known as Tsetsi Monare. He joins us in studio to tell us more about the impact of climate change on sea level rise, as well as how it could affect the southern African countries. Thank you very much for joining us. Can you give us a little bit of background on this topic?
Yeah, well, we've been talking over the last couple of weeks, Eben and I, even Elvis, and I'm glad now, me and you. We've been talking about what the El Nino effect has been doing to the whole world in terms of the drought and the lack of rainfall in southern African countries and the flooding in European countries, and also in some South American countries. So yeah, it's been quite hectic. Now we're looking at what the increased temperatures can also do to the ocean. Because what happens is when the ocean gets warmer, it expands a bit. You know about this. Any molecule, when it gets hotter, it either moves faster or it just expands a little bit. So that's what's been happening with the oceans now. And that's also one of the biggest things that we haven't really been exploring much here in South Africa in terms of looking at what the impacts are. First of all, I mean, in the intro, it said over 500 million people, close to 760 million people can actually be, can lose land that they're actually living on, like on coastal areas. And China being one of the biggest ones to be affected because they've got a large population on the coast, as well as they've got a big stretch of coastline that is really, under threat of a rising sea level. Because we get different parts of the world where we're having land that either rising, so the rising sea level will not have much of an impact. There'll still be an impact, but not that much. And then we've got other parts of the world which are sinking. And then we've also parts that are closer to glacial areas. So with the melting of that as well, it will lead to sea level rising quite a bit. And you can imagine the devastation that will cause. Land, habitable land will also be sort of disappearing, which is one of the biggest problems.
Tell us a bit, are there any specific areas that you could identify that we all know? Is it the Namibian coastline or Mozambique, or is it the Atlantic seaboard, Cape Town side, or maybe the East Coast? What is actually could be affected in Southern Africa?
If you take a look at what we have here on our visuals, this is a picture of Durban, and this is what would happen on a normal 2 degrees. If maybe you can go slightly backwards, you'll see that when it's at 4 degree increase, temperature increase, places such as KwaZulu-Natal and Durban will basically be underwater because they'll be mostly affected.
Although, are you talking about the entire KwaZulu-Natal all the way to the escarpment?
All the way through the Eastern Cape as well. Yeah, all the way towards the escarpment. Fortunately for us here in South Africa, we on one of the strongest and elevated platform, like the African continent, is much higher than what you see in European countries. So this definitely would be happening to us. KwaZulu-Natal, definitely in London, they'll be having some severe impact as well.
Wow, no, definitely something to be carried on with as a conversation, because a lot of people weren't aware of the impact that it could have on us directly here in Southern Africa. Paul Tsetsi Monare, thank you so much for coming through. There you have it. Whether or not with Tsetsi Monare, a regular slot on Thursdays. We'll be back shortly after this break.
It's 1100 hours Central African time on this Thursday, the 4th of February 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News, Channel 404. If you've just joined us, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome to the final hour. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. You have to stay with us as we broadcast live from our Auckland Park studios, Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. As you know, we're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Question of the day, it's on your screen right now. We're asking you, are we ready for the digital revolution or the fourth industrial revolution? You can send us your thoughts on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. You can also like us on the Facebook page. But first, let's take a look at all the news headlines. All eyes on the two main litigants in the Nkandla Constitutional Court matter on whether they will continue with the case. President Jacob Zuma accuses Western Cape Premier Helen Zille of abusing his trust after she released what he says was confidential information. And the countrywide public hearings on Eskom's application for an additional tariff hike moved to Midrand, north of Johannesburg, today. But before we get to the news, let's find out from Nkandla what's happening on the sports front. Very good morning.
Good morning, Elvis. Quite a lot happening on the sports front. Good morning to you as well. This is what we have for you in the sports in about 30 minutes or so. England and the weather rain on the Proteas parade as South Africa lose the first ODI by 39 runs on the Duckworth-Lewis method. And it was an unhappy reunion for Roger de Saar and Pirates last night as his former club beat Ajax 2-1 at Orlando Stadium.
Look at him, he lifts his foot up and that ball...
It was a night to forget for PSL goalkeepers as first Jack Caller, then Bar gifted goals to their opposition.
Situation here, Bar in his first start in the PSL, being put under pressure by...
There you have it, the men in yellow struggling in the PSL last night. A night to forget for them. Back to you, Elvis.
Comedy of errors, as you mentioned earlier on in that match. But Nkandla will have more of that, of the sports news a little bit later in the program, so stay tuned. Our top story this hour. The Constitutional Court has given all litigants in the Nkandla saga until tomorrow to indicate whether they want to go ahead with the matter. This was after President Jacob Zuma wrote to the court proposing a settlement, which includes paying a portion of the 246 million rand spent on his private home. Zuma had asked the court to determine how this matter will proceed considering his proposal. However, the court has refused to be involved in the proposal and instead instructed the parties to conclude on what steps they would like to take. The Democratic Alliance has already indicated that it will go ahead with the court challenge, while the EFF will make an announcement this afternoon. The Office of the Public Protector, which applied to make submissions, is also yet to confirm whether they want to proceed.
It has been a long, drawn-out battle. 2 years since the Public Protector recommended the President pay back a portion spent on non-security upgrades at his Nkandla home. Various institutions launched investigations. The Police Ministry, Public Works and the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee all cleared the President. But this did not deter the opposition parties, particularly the EFF, which went to the highest court to force the President to pay. The President proposes that the Auditor General be part of determining the amount to be paid, a suggestion that was not part of the Public Protector's recommendations.
As the Public Protector team, we are ready for the court case in the Constitutional Court on Tuesday next week. I must indicate, though, that the President's intervention requires me and my team and our lawyers to sit down and review our situation. So we can't just blindly continue with the constitutional process.
The ruling party says the President's decision is a step in the right direction.
It's not an admission of guilt, but I think in the interest of taking forward the country, but making sure that we focus on many other issues, the President is prepared to pay a certain amount, which will be determined by the authorities, which among others he has suggested in his letter to his offer to Concord.
But for the official opposition, the Nkandla battle is far from over.
He, first of all, accused the public protector of being only akin only to an ombudsman, which was the first assault on, in fact, the remedial action and the powers given to the public protector. He then proceeded to replace the process with parallel processes. And now suddenly for him to stand before the people of this country to say he was intent on paying.
Analysts believe the president's proposal will lessen tensions ahead of the State of the Nation address next week. Aldrin St-Pierre, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Meanwhile, the Economic Freedom Fighters Commander-in-Chief Julius Malema will hold a media briefing to react to President Jacob Zuma's proposal that the Auditor General and the Finance Minister determine his liability for upgrades at his Nkandla private residence. Our reporter Aldrin St-Pierre is attending that briefing today. Aldrin, a very good morning to you. And can you tell us whether or not that conference is still going ahead today?
Well, good morning, Elvis. Yes, we expect the conference to start right about noon, probably just after 12 o'clock. That's when the EFF will make an announcement whether they want to proceed with this constitutional court or not. As we've indicated earlier on that report as well, that the DA has already indicated that they want to proceed with this matter. But what we should not forget is that the EFF is the initial applicant in this matter. It was the EFF that took not only the President but also Parliament to court with regards to the Nkandla upgrades. They accused Parliament of failing to uphold the Constitution as well as the President. So we expect an indication from the EFF later this afternoon, probably in the next hour or so, whether they want to proceed in this matter. But in all likelihood, chances are that they will proceed with this case. For instance, if you look at the plans that the EFF have put in place, the 9th of February, when the case is set down to be heard at the Constitutional Court, they already have mass marches that will be taking place on the day. Thousands and thousands of EFF supporters and members have been encouraged to come through to Braamfontein and march on Constitutional Hill on the day when this matter will be heard. So all the likelihood that they will indicate, but we expect confirmation rather in the next hour or so.
The DA has already rejected the offer. Is there a sense perhaps that these two parties will work together on the case?
Well, yes, the DA has already rejected the offer. I'm not too sure if the two councils from the DA as well as the EFF have met down on paving a way forward. But what we should not forget as well is that the public protector is also involved in this case. She has asked to make some submissions because she feels that whichever way the ruling goes, it will have some sort of implications on her office. So if we look, for instance, at the DA already indicating that it wants to go ahead with this matter, and the Constitutional Court giving a directive that it wants to hear by 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon whether these parties want to continue with this matter, and it's all likelihood that this matter, the Constitutional Court matter on Nkandla, will continue, because at least we have one litigant, which is the DA, that wants this matter to proceed.
Now, if the case do go to the Constitutional Court, what impact will that have on the state of the nation when the President addresses us, if any?
Well, some analysts have been arguing that the reason why the President has asked for the court to intervene, because remember from the letter that was sent by the court, the President indicates that he had tried to speak to the litigants around a settlement out of court. There was no response, and that's the reason why he went directly to the court. And considering the timing of it, what some analysts are saying is that this is the President basically trying to lessen tensions ahead of his State of the Nation address. Well, if this court case goes ahead, it's unlikely that we'll hear a ruling immediately after the court case on whether the President should pay, and also with regards to the powers of the public protector. But we will have to wait and see on the day, on the 11th of February, when the President delivers his State of the Nation address, what impact his decision to have an out-of-court settlement will have, or whether this court case goes ahead, what impact it will have on the tensions inside the National Assembly when he delivers the State of the Nation address.
Now, some analysts has indicated that the proposal by the President is almost like an admission of guilt. Is that more or the sort of argument that we'll get from the Commander-in-Chief of the EFF today?
Well, certainly if you look at it, for instance, that since this case has started, or since the investigations into the Nkandla matter has started, and remember even when the public protector when the public protector's preliminary report into Nkandla was leaked, she indicated back then already that the president should pay a portion of the money spent on upgrading his home because he had unduly benefited. Back then, the president indicated that he does not want to pay, he wouldn't pay unless there is some sort of agreement on how much it is that he should pay. But also that what the president said is that, listen, I did not ask for these upgrades. It is the security cluster, which is the defense as well as the defense department, as well as the police ministry, that said we should upgrade the security status of his Nkandla home, and they went ahead with that. While the ANC says that the president while the president saying that he wants to pay the money right now is not at all an admission of guilt, but it's rather seen as something of the president himself heading forward to implementing the recommendations of the public protector.
Eldrin Sampear, thank you so much for that update. That was a reporter in the CBD, Eldrin Sampear, giving us the latest there. Meanwhile, President Jacob Zuma has accused the Western Cape Premier Helen Zille of abusing his trust after she released what he says was confidential information. Zille said in a statement that the president had told provincial premiers at a meeting in Pretoria that he would make deep cuts to budget allocations. He said the country's economic plight had forced his hand. The presidency says the confidential contents of the meeting ahead of Zuma's State of the Nation address and the Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan's budget speech were released without authorization. The FW de Klerk Foundation has dismissed the laying of charges by the newly formed Anti-Racism Forum against the former state president. The foundation described the charges as an attempt by an unknown organization to generate divisive and sensational publicity. A former EFF leader, Nkandla, and members of the forum laid 22 charges at the Hillbrow police station in Johannesburg against de Klerk and apartheid-era Law and Order Minister Adrian Flock. The forum wants them to answer for the Boy Patong and Bisho massacres, as well as Strain and Township killings before 1994. In 1998, Flock told the TRC that de Klerk knew of illegal security force operations. Refuting the allegations, de Klerk refused to apply for amnesty. Grain SA has asked government to declare a national disaster so that funds can be released to help farmers through the worst drought in a century. The country's latest grain producer earlier said higher than expected January plantings would reduce main imports to 3.8 million tonnes. Grain South Africa says late seeding has put young plants at high risk for extreme weather. Chief Executive Jannie de Villiers says that the country now needs leadership to trigger a relief process. Should a national disaster be declared, emergency relief funds would be released from the Treasury to eligible farmers. SABC News has learned that the Minister of Agriculture and other stakeholders are currently meeting over this matter. TransUnion released the Consumer Credit Index, or will release the Consumer Credit Index later today. That index shows a marginal decrease in spending in the fourth quarter in 2015 to 52.1. That's from 52.3 in the fourth quarter in 2014. Consumer credit behavior remained stable in the fourth quarter of 2015 and neither materially worsened nor improved from the third quarter. Earlier I spoke to TransUnion CEO Jeff Miller, who explained why the index came out stable, despite consumers spending more during the festive season.
We really don't see the effects of the festive spending until Q1. So consumers tend to rack up a lot of debt, and then they miss repayments as we get into the new year. What was a little bit concerning for me was that credit card utilization was up 13% over last year, and that probably means that consumers don't have the extra cash, so they're using credit cards to cover those everyday purchases. The index also doesn't take into account, obviously, the huge depreciation in the rand that occurred in December, nor the 50 basis point interest rate increase that happened in Q1. So we're a little pessimistic as we head into the new year.
Explain to me, that shows a marginal decrease in the fourth quarter in 2015 from 52.1 to 52.3.
Yeah. So, you know, if we're above 50, it means we're relatively stable. Once we get below 50, it means credit health is declining. So we're kind of on that cusp. As I said, you know, we're very concerned because of the depreciation of the rand, the uptick in inflation, plus the increase in interest rates, that consumers that have increased spending or, you know, maybe went a little too far in the festive season are in for a rough Q1.
A weaker rand exchange rate raises the cost of living. We all know that. But how has this affected people's spending and consumer spending over the period?
Yeah, as you know, as we said, so we saw retail, retail spending rise sharply, and at least more than anyone increased.
More retail than anything else?
Mostly retail. You know, that's where we have the best read. You know, you saw new vehicle sales have fallen almost double digits on a year-over-year basis. So I think consumer spending is going to be muted as we look to the future. A consumer must really come to us to get a free copy of their credit report. You know, only 400,000 consumers a year come and get a free credit report.
And that's a free report?
It's a free report. 20 million consumers are credit active, 400,000 come and get a credit report. And that's the most important thing. So we really urge consumers to come to mytransunion.co.za. They can get a free report there, or they can call 0861 482 482.
Now, how do they get this report? What do they do?
So first of all, they need to provide information, their name, their address, their identity number. Clearly, we want to make sure that we're not releasing this report to someone else. So we ask them some questions that only they would know. And then they can either get that through mail, they can get it through fax, they can get it through email. So we try to make it as available as in a widely as medium as possible.
Welcome back. It's now time to take a look at the countrywide public hearings on Eskom's application for an additional tariff hike that moved to Midrand north of Johannesburg today. Now, Eskom is seeking approval from the National Energy Regulator of South Africa to acquire an extra 22 billion rand. The power utility says already approved tariff hikes failed to factor in high diesel costs used to keep the lights on. Meanwhile, Eskom has served notice of its intention to suspend electricity supply to 8 Free State municipalities by the end of this month due to continued non-payment. Late last year, Eskom issued the first threat to cut off municipalities' power supply after it was revealed that they were owed almost 2 billion rand. Meanwhile, activist group The Right to Know campaign is planning a protest at today's hearings. The group says the public should not be made to pay for Eskom's bad management. Now that's your news for now. I'll be back with your regular slot just after this break.
Morning Live sets the agenda for the day. We bring you the latest local and international news. We are on the ball with all your sports activities and results. We give you the latest business update.
We bring you the latest weather every time.
Watch Morning Live every weekday morning at 6 o'clock, bringing you everything you need to know before you go. Shap shap, tada.
As African leaders gather for the AU Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, SABC News is on the ground bringing you all the latest coverage as it happens. For all the latest updates and issues arising on the summit, stay tuned to SABC News Channel 404.
Time now for your regional slot. The Northern Cape government has started to move into communities to remove unused and disused articles and appliances standing idle in many backyards of houses throughout the province. It's also part of a Safety Month campaign that will be launched today. The removal of articles is in response to the death of 5 children, as you can recall, who died when an old fridge that they were playing in closed on them and in the process suffocating them. The project kicks off in Kakamas today, where the tragedy took place 2 weeks ago. Our SABC reporter Ulrich Hendricks now joins us from Kakamas. Ulrich, from Kakamas rather. Ulrich, a very good afternoon, good morning to you and welcome. Can you tell us, just sketch the picture for us as to what is happening there currently?
Hi, good morning, Elvis, and welcome to Kakamas, where we're broadcasting from this morning. This is the scene where 5 toddlers or 5 children died about 3 weeks ago. They were playing in a disused fridge that then closed down on them, and in the process suffocating them. They were buried about just this past weekend, and still a lot of people who are suffering because of that incident. And as a result, at that funeral and in the week before, the Northern Cape government then launched basically this program where they want to get rid of these items that we tend to hoard in our backyards. Those are cars, fridges, for example, and other such items that could be harmful to children. At the moment, the MEC for Safety and Liaison in the Northern Cape, Master Bartlett, is having is within the community here in Kakamas. She's talking to the community about this project, launch of Safety Month, and then specifically this project where they are trying to rid backyards of these items. But she will tell us a bit more about this. Good morning, MEC. Still a lot of heartache in this community.
Yeah, good morning to everybody out there. Yes, still a lot, and you can sense the still heartache, and for the mere fact that all the community came out and filled this hall. We can see they are still in mourning, and they still feel for the 5 families.
And then let's talk about this project. A lot of backyards, not only in the Northern Cape but across South Africa, do have old items, fridges, etc. How is this program going to work?
Yeah, now in the backyard, even in Kimberley where I'm staying right now, all over the province, I think all over the country, there's a lot of old things, fridges and cars at the back of our people's yard. So the reason why we came to Kakamas to launch this program here in Kakamas, we said, like when the Premier promised the community that we will come back, because it's really a danger out there. And what we are going to do and what we are trying to do with this project, we want to have it for a safer environment, children environment campaign. So we are starting it here today. And what we intend to do, we are working together with the community and with the municipality and with the parents of the children. And what we are also going to take out old fridges and cars as a symbolic model to start the launching of this project today. And we hope it will not only be for the Northern Cape, because if you read in the papers and saw in the media for this past 3 weeks, children died all over the country, as either in a car or the boot of a car or in a fridge or something else. So we really want our people to be aware of what is happening around our houses and in our communities. And we really want, as much as we said, we are not blaming the parents of Kakamas per se, but we are blaming parents if you can't look after your child, because all of us must know the whereabouts of children. It doesn't matter when and where.
Let me see, how does it work? I have an old car and an old fridge in my backyard. How does it work? How do I form part of this program to rid those items from the backyard?
Yeah. What we are going to do, like I said the last time, the moment when we left, the police were working together and dishing out pamphlets. And we're also going to do that today. What we want our people to do, if you have something in your backyard that you are not using anymore, if you can't take it away yourself, it's better to go to the municipality or to the leaders in the community and speak to them and ask them, please, if they can help and assist you. That's why we are here for awareness campaign. We want the people to know they don't have to do that themselves, but they can join this program today and this project to save the life of our children, because our children is a national asset to us. So if they don't know what to do, just go to the nearest police station or to the community or to any leader and ask them for help. I think from today on, they will know about us, they will hear about us because it's a safety month, and we have a reason why we launch safety month specifically in Kakamas.
Let's talk about the safety of our children as well. You mentioned that parents should know at all times where their children are, that they are safe. Education in terms of that from your department.
Yeah. Like I said, parents must always know where their children are. There must be safety measures. I know sometimes a lot happens 24 hours because some of our parents are working parents. But in schools, we have the safety programs in schools also to educate the teachers for starters and the children and the friends. What we also said in Afrikaans, dat met die makker style is, dat jy moet weer nooit sonder 'n vriend of 'n vriendin loop. So what we are going to do, and what we also want to tell the parents from outside, as the Department of Transport Safety and Liaison, the parents must really know, even in an event but where you know there's nobody at home, just ask your neighbors, ask somebody else to look after your child. And also tell your child that they must never be alone. And the parents must make sure where their children are, where they are going. Even if they are working parents, they must ask the neighbors or the community to look after their children. Because, like I said, my child is your child and your child is my child. So we don't want a situation where parents say, no, I was at work, I don't know where my child was, it wasn't my fault. All of us must take responsibility for each and every children in our communities.
Okay, so this morning after this public meeting, you will physically go out to about 2 houses and then remove items from there. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, what we are going to do, we are going to visit the 2 streets where the 2 houses of parents are living. We are going to sympathize with them again and just speak to them again and deliver something to them. But we will also, as a symbolic thing, we will come together at the street, and then we want people to take out the old fridges and old cars. And I know it will not be a lot, but it's just for symbolic reason. For them to know the campaign already started, say a week ago, not like the campaign, but the awareness about it. So when the Premier spoke about it last time, and I spoke about it the week before, we are now here today to see that we want action, and we really want the thing to be removed from the backyards. And we want all of them, not all of them will be able to bring their old cars and old features today here, but it's the starting point, it's the launching of a project. But after today, we'll ask the police and the community and the municipality to be part of this project and really help our people. Because the last time I said, even if it means we must do door to door to help the people get rid of things, we will do that. And I'm available to come back to help with that campaign, because this is not only a once-off campaign, because it's not only happening in Kakamas, it's happening all over the country, and it's happening all over the province. Like I said, especially for the past 3 weeks, there was a lot of these accidents in Africa. So we want this to be the first and the last in the Northern Cape that happen even all over the province in the country.
Thank you very much, MEC for Safety and Liaison Northern Cape, Master Bartlett.
Thank you very much. Okay.
That was the MEC for Safety and Liaison Northern Cape, Martha Bartlett, launching the campaign where they will start removing disused fridges, cars, etc., and other unused items from backyards at houses here in Kakamas. Of course, as you said, spreading it through the Northern Cape and hopefully through the country. Back to the studio, Elvis.
Ulrich Hendricks, our reporter there in the Northern Cape. Thank you so much for that report. Now, let's move over to the Eastern Cape. A multidisciplinary task team comprising of the Hawks, the South African Police and Crime Intelligence has been formed in Port Elizabeth to deal with the high levels of gangsterism in the northern areas. Now, this comes after 4 people were shot and killed when alleged gangsters burst into a tavern in Arcadia and fired several shots this past weekend. Now, this brings to date 21 people who have died in relation to gang violence since the beginning of the year. Our reporter Lerato Tipa is in the northern areas and she'll be talking to Justine Oliphant, a social activist from Port Elizabeth in the northern areas. A very good morning to you, Lerato. And can you just tell us how serious is the gang activities in Port Elizabeth to the extent that we now have this combined team all together there?
Well, a very good morning. We're broadcasting live from Galvin, an area very notorious for gangsterism in the northern areas of Port Elizabeth. Just to take you through, last week a Hawks team was deployed from East London to Port Elizabeth to form part of a task team that's going to deal with gangsterism in the area. Just some stats for you. Just in the week of January alone, 21 people have died to gangsterism in this area. And people in this area, I can just tell you, are scared to speak. No one wants to speak. People are scared, living in fear. But there's a man in the community who's not fearful at all. His name is Justin Oliphant, and he is a social activist that runs a center behind me, helping to rehabilitate young people back into society, some of those people being former gang members as well. Now, Justin, the Hawks have been deployed to Port Elizabeth to deal with gangsterism. In your opinion, is law enforcement the solution to dealing with this issue?
I see law enforcement as one of the important factors that we need in order to, combat the scourge of gangs and gangsterism. But law enforcement is reactive. We also need proactive involvement. We're happy about the Hawks being deployed, but that's just one wing. You know what I'm saying.
Now, earlier on we were talking, you said to me that about 45% of young people in this area are unemployed. What other socio-economic issues are facing people of the northern areas, and could these perhaps be linked to gangsterism in this area?
Yeah, it's obvious if if you don't have a way to feed your family tonight, desperation will lead you into all kinds of challenges. And obviously, high unemployment rate leads to people losing hope, leads to drug addiction, leads to, abuse, domestic abuse, and various other challenges. So a lot of our kids with matric, kids with university degrees are sitting at home getting despondent and often getting drawn into these social challenges as well.
Now, you work with young people on a daily basis, and you said earlier on, discussing this issue of gangsterism, that it's become a culture, and that's what people need to understand. As you're working with young people, what is it about the specific culture that's just so enticing?
I think it has to do with the fact that it's an unconditional acceptance, the initial lure, which it obviously really isn't. But it's also the fact that a lot of these kids have so much of pent-up frustration and hopelessness, and very often the young people who are targeted, to be drawn into the gangs are kids who come from schools where they have learning disabilities, etc., etc., etc. But I would say the biggest draw card would be that you would have protection, you would have family, you would have association with others who could enable you to, become socially mobile. It helps for certain young people who don't have any other way to feed their families. We now have kids raising parents because kids are now, the main breadwinners in families as a result of criminal activity.
Now, just in your opinion, the issue of gangsterism in this northern areas dates back to the 1960s, and to date it seems to be increasing. Just as we close, in your opinion, what do you think is the ultimate solution to eventually decreasing the high number of people that are dying and the level of gangsterism that's growing in the area?
I think we need political will. I think we need, our leadership to step in. And our community, they don't want to be seen just as a cross. We put crosses on graves every single week. Our community wants to be seen as an important factor in bringing about positive change in the country. We've got something to give. Our lives matter as well. So if leadership can intervene and stop making excuses, because this is a problem that's been ongoing, but it's now intensified. It's become a lot worse. We live in a free country, in a democracy. And obviously, in a democracy, we can't still be held hostage in our homes by the kids of our own community. So, we need political intervention. We need political will before we can have proper interventions.
Well, that was Justin Oliphant, a social activist in the northern areas, saying that law enforcement is good, but a multifaceted approach from the community, from families, from the government is the only way to curb the high rise of gangsterism in the northern areas. It's back to you in studio.
Thank you, Lorato. That's Lorato Tipa, our reporter in the Eastern Cape in Port Elizabeth, giving us that one there. It's an ongoing concern in PE, and we're going to keep a close eye on that story. Back to Johannesburg, the city of Johannesburg, Go Josie Healthy Lifestyle Schools program was launched last year by the Executive Mayor, Councillor Park Stow, and that is expected to be rolled out to more schools this year. The aim is to fight lifestyle diseases and conditions among children. According to the Health and Social Development Department, 132 children are registered for the program. By June this year, it will be rolled out to more than 250 schools. Now, to talk to us about the program, we are joined by a member of the Mayoral Committee for Health and Social Development, Councillor Nongneba Molwele. A very good morning to you, ma'am, and welcome.
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers at home.
First and foremostly, I would like to find from you, what led to this campaign? Was there any concerns that relating to a healthy lifestyle by children?
Certainly. In our endeavor as a city to become the healthiest city, to have the healthy citizens, and also our vision of having the best healthy schools program in the world, we have tapped into the territory of the schools, working together with the Gauteng Department of Health.
Now, looking at the program, the Living Lifestyle or Healthy Lifestyle program, what does it entail?
It entails the change of behavior. Because as a city's leadership, we have identified challenges in terms of the life expectancy of our citizens. And that is why the Executive Mayor has launched this program of healthy lifestyle, just to do health education and encourage behavior change from our citizens. Because what we have discovered, according to our research, in terms of the health status of our citizens, is that people die younger. And they die younger not because they have to die, but because of the diseases of lifestyle, because of diseases that we can prevent as a nation. So we have started this program since 2012, when the mayor launched the broad healthy lifestyle program in the city. But we then realized that we have to talk to the young ones. We have to instill this discipline to the young ones. As you know, that there's a say in our vocab that says, so it means if you start instilling discipline at a young age, then the advantage is that you will be raising a healthy nation. So we want to raise a healthy nation as a city, starting at the school level. Instilling that discipline at the school level, because young children at the age of 5 and even younger do suffer from the diseases of lifestyle because of the way we raise them as parents. So we are starting there at that level, and the research has told us that if we start at that level, we are likely to add 5 or more years to the life of an individual.
But what does it entail, this entire program? Is it better eating? Is it exercise? What does it entail?
This specific program, it's about encouraging one health environment at a school level. Obviously, the parents are also involved because it begins in a home. So starting at that level, health environment, it entails promoting healthy lifestyles within the school environment. It entails having a health champion at school, and we always say to the principals, preferable the educator that teaches life orientation should be the health champion at a school level. It also entails what is in the lunchbox of a child. What is there? It also entails the change and also the change of regulation of the tuck shops, because what is sold in the tuck shops does not necessarily add to what we want to do. But what is good with this program, Elvis, is that it also have some rewards. So it has 4 statuses, which begins from the blue status, where when the school registers, then the school gets a 5,000 rands voucher to purchase the equipment and all the things like your first aid kit and everything, and get certificate. But it also goes to a gold award. And then these awards, then they come with the rewards that we give. So a school can get up to 50,000 rands in cash, just for adhering to the disciplines of healthy lifestyle. So the school must also have a garden. So we are very strict on that one, that there must be a vegetable garden at a school level.
And what happens with the garden? Is it to be used by the students or the teachers, or how does it work?
The community, because there's a committee that works with the wellness champion at the school level. So it gets used by the community themselves, but it also instills this discipline to a child that even at home, you know, our children, they also take us to task. If you don't have a garden, then the child would ask you, Mommy, Daddy, why there's no garden at home? Because we are taught at school that we must have gardens and the importance of having a vegetable garden.
Now, the incentives for the school sounds fantastic, but how are you going to monitor that these schools are all participating?
We do, because the schools register into our program, as I said, and then we have people who are monitoring these schools one by one. So we do know, and we have experts that work with us from universities. We work with UJ, we work with WORDS that are working with us, but also we work with Discovery Health. So we do have criteria of monitoring these schools so that they can qualify for the awards that I have spoken about.
Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us here in studio.
Thank you very much. Forward with Go Josie. So we are calling upon more schools to register. We want to achieve 250 schools by the end of June this year.
So they voluntarily register on the site?
Register, and our website is www.cojhealthschools.co.za.
Wonderful. That is the member of the Mayoral Committee for Health and Social Development, Councillor Noneba Molwele. Now that's all we have for you this time. It's now time for the sports news with Nkandla Makamate.
Thank you very much, Elvis. I am Nkandla Makamate with your sports on Newsroom. Very interesting topic you were covering there. Now, England have got their ascendancy in the 5-match one-day international series against South Africa. This after their 39-run victory courtesy of Duckworth-Lewis in the rain-hit opening match in Bloemfontein last night. But there's still some positives that the approaches can build on ahead of the next match in Port Elizabeth on Saturday. Right now, we're going to take some comments from you on the ODI. We'll hopefully be able to play you that clip a little later on. But in the meantime, we do have some comments from you in terms of what's happening with your thoughts on that ODI, which hopefully will also come up as well a little later. In fact, here we go. There we go. Now, England's highest ODI totals. Here you go. Now, 408 for 9 versus New Zealand on the 9th of June 2015. And then 399 for 9 versus South Africa on the 3rd of February 2016. Obviously, England on their ascendancy, and we're one of their casualties. Werner Klokau reckons every South African should attempt to find Misters Duckworth and Lewis and feed them hot acha or something. England was let off the hook. Right, now Peter Turner says, Jos Buttler, one of the best one-day players in the world, says Hales. Yes, he was. He did extremely well. Jos Buttler, the wicket-keeper for England there. And Vikram Thakur reckons South Africa versus England. In spite of there being so much difficulty to hit 6s and 4s, Quinny was so easily hitting the balls at will. He can certainly win the match. He can. If he'd had a little bit more time, he definitely would have hit us into the pound seats there. Now, Luke Steenkamp says, whether we win or lose, I am Protea Fire supporter, impenetrable, immovable. David de Villiers, JP Dumini. There's a big fan right there. There's a big fan right there. Now, moving on to other sports stories. 20 years ago, on the 3rd of February 1996, Bafana Bafana, South Africa's men's national football team, were bathed in glory as they were crowned the African Cup of Nations champions. The moment was theirs, and they took it, putting the world at their feet. Last night in their post-match interview, Wits' coach Gavin Hunt and Platinum Stars' Kevin Johnson shared their memories of the victorious 1996 Bafana Bafana team, which won the AFCON.
Yeah, it was good. It was fantastic times and a fantastic team, but it just shows you where we've gone as a country and a whole as in our football, isn't it? You know, we've gone backwards, and it's very sad to see. So hopefully we can get back to those lofty heights again, and I'm sure we can one day with the right structures.
We played the curtain raiser for 1996, the School of Excellence, you remember. So I was on the side of the pitch, and I looked at Neil pick up the trophy, and I think the class of that era was a good class of players. They played for their country, they played with their hearts, and most of all, they won the trophy. So to that group of players, I think they done the country proud, and yeah, we still see some of them walking around today. Some of them in high positions, like Neil, for example, like Eric Tinkler, like Roger Dessar, like Sean Bartlett. They're all giving something back to football, and we are happy for that. And hopefully we're able to build another 1996 team with Sheikhs in charge.
Right, now there you go. This is obviously post-match, the matches that were being played last night. Here's a quick summary of all the results from last night. A little bit about Tuesday, which you saw yesterday morning. Have a quick squiz at that. But in the meantime, I can tell you that the Ducks match against Free State Stars, free-wheeling, free-dealing, 4 goals scored, 2 apiece. Orlando Pirates beating IS Cape Town 2-1. The first goal for Orlando Pirates, obviously courtesy of a bit of a mistake at the back there between defender and goalkeeper. Bloem Celtic 1-0 against SuperSport United. SuperSport United, well, enjoying having Stuart Baxter at the reins there. Let's see what he does with them with the rest of the season left over. Bidvest Fits 1-0 against Platinum Stars. And then Polokwane City, they beat Maritzburg 3-1. And Polokwane City, came from behind to get that victory, and they made home ground advantage count at the old Peter Mokaba Stadium. And with that said, that's where we leave it with a sport, and hand over back now to Elvis Presley.
Thank you, Kendall. As we promised early on, COSATU is having that media briefing today, talking about the tax laws. Let's go there live.
We are Twitter, can ungena enkathazweni ngo-Twitter mfowethu. Ngizodinde ayivele
oh yeah.
What is big?
Sure. Big is putting a spanner on the wheel with regard to the process of finance. Big business. The one I got to show that it is from the whole. Yeah, we think so.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, sorry for the delay. We really apologize. Let us not waste any more time. We've invited you to this briefing of the special CC. There is a statement that you have in your possession now, but also we'll be distributing a revised version, meaning the content is the same, but they are just editions. What I'm going to do now is that I'm going to introduce you to the leadership, allow the General Secretary to read the statement and we proceed with the press briefing. On the far side, I have the Deputy General Secretary, Comrade Usoli Pedwe, and then next to Comrade Usoli Pedwe, there's the National Treasurer of the Federation, Comrade Frida Ostensen, and in the middle, the General Secretary of the Federation, Comrade Bekijani, and then next to him, we have the President of the Federation, Comrade Stumotamin, and next to me is the first Deputy President of the Federation, Comrade Kemper James. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the General Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade